I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you.
Okay. All right, how's everyone doing? Let's do the intro really quickly. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be watching this. My name is Josh, and welcome to my channel. On here, we talk news, politics, and current events. And today, it seems like it's gonna be a current events day, I guess. So originally, I had a number of. I don't want to say a number. I don't want to make it sound like I did all of this work producing or anything else, but there were topics that I was going to go over, that we were going to talk about a little bit, and then we were going to watch a bit of a lengthy debate between Colleen Noir from NRA TV and from YouTube, and watch a debate that he did with a basically a gun safety advocate, essentially, or activist, I should say. We're gonna watch that, and that was probably, it's gonna be the biggest part of the show. But while kind of doing dinner and all of the I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, just kind of going about my own business and everything else, listening to, because usually, pretty much, to give you an idea, I usually start my day, I listen to the Majority Report. That's usually my morning. If I'm working, that's usually what I listen to, as I'm going through kind of the routines for the day. That's what I tend to listen to on the morning side. From there, it kind of depends on what work I need to do. If there's chores around the house, stuff like that. And towards the afternoon, around dinner time, I'll make dinner while watching the Young Turks. Those are kind of the two that have a nice scheduled time that I can go to at those times. While watching the Young Turks today, they responded to some super chats, some commenters, whatever, asking about all of the Twitter spat that was going on right before the show, which I don't want to seem, what's the word, conspiratorial, but I will admit that it strikes me, it's a bit sussy to me, and I'll be honest about you, it's a bit sussy to me that I've noticed that these sort of spats, all of this stuff happens right before the show goes on air, which isn't to say that I think they're trying to pump their viewers, but I do think that there is a convenient timing of when these go out. I guess that's what I am saying. That they're doing all of this right before the show. Those people show up and want to hear them address all of the stuff that's going on Twitter. And it just kind of feels disingenuous because you put all of this out before you do your live show, you get in arguments with people, then you get on social media, then you go on to your show, respond, your audience is going to be asking you to talk about this topic, and then you get kind of offended that it's you get kind of offended and defensive when it comes up, and that really bothered me. And I haven't talked about any of this. It's really not something that I'm deeply interested in going over. From when Anna first came out with her pretty spicy takes, I didn't engage with any of it. Maybe I tweeted. I don't think I did though. But I didn't engage in any of it. We didn't talk about it on here. Generally, we don't. I try not to do the drama stuff, but I guess I'll say the reason I'm making an exception today is because I was making dinner, I was listening to the show, and then had to hear all of it come up during one of the breaks. And I was like, all right, you know what? I've been exposed to enough of this. Now I'm kind of irritated by it. And it irritated me on a, not on the show level, but on the, all right, fine. If we're going to, if I'm going to hear about it, if I'm going to get dragged into it as a viewer and everything else, fuck it then. I want to go over it. I'll read all the shit. So yeah, I'm going to go through it. Let's just get into it. Do you Democrats like the Nordic model? Do you Democrats? depends on what you define as the Nordic model. I don't really know if there's a monolithic model in terms of torms, in terms of the in terms of all of the what is colloquially called the Nordic countries. But there are aspects that I do appreciate. Basically Sweden. For the most part, I probably have a few. I probably have my own like specific what's the word I'm looking for? Disagreements, but generally I their social safety net I really appreciate. It's very robust. I actually worked at IKEA for a while here in the US, and the way that I will say, the working for IKEA, a Sweden business that's very, very into their Swedishness, right? I did experience something that I would want to avoid in terms of endorsement of a Swedish, kind of the Swedish model, which is the really complex bureaucratic nature. Now this is a business structure, but it gave me cause a lot of times because there was just so many committees and so many bylaws and so much rigmarole just to make decisions and to talk to the person that you want to talk to make changes or address issues that you're having. Obviously, IKEA is not Sweden, but it's the closest thing I have to an experience with the country's kind of model and framework of how to structure and organize systems. What did you need to have with them, my friend? I honestly couldn't tell you specifics. I don't have anything. I'm sure I have disagreements. I just want to leave that ground open in terms of, I'm sure there's going to be something I disagree with, but I prefer their healthcare system and how they kind of structure their societies in terms of retirement. Also, I don't know if I think this is Sweden, but they have a very what's the word? It's like the prison system. I don't know if this is Sweden. I could be misremembering, and this is one of the other countries. It's a very goddamn rehabilitative system of how they have jails, basically. I remember watching I saw a video on it. It was really interesting. Is they don't lock people up in giant prisons like we do in here in the U.S. and isolate them from other people. They generally, they give them resources and kind of integrate them back into what normal society would be. Again, that might not be Sweden, but I do prefer that. If that's not Sweden, I mean, I like that. I don't know what their prison system is like, but as with every system, as with every country, I'm gonna have a few disagreements here or there, but generally, they seem to have certainly I prefer it a little bit more than the US in a lot of important aspects. But I'm sorry, I'm answering very long-windedly, but it's basically a reconciliation between capitalism and a tiny bits of socialism, something we Indians have too. I've worked really well, my friend. You should try that. Yeah. I didn't even know. You mean like India? I did not know. I have no awareness of the Indian structure of government. I know very, very little about Indian culture and politics and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely, I would definitely agree. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit from both bag. I appreciate that balance more than what we have. Is it perfect to me? I'm sure there's one or two things I would change, but overall happy about it. Or they also, Sweden's a very, doesn't Sweden have one of the highest happiness ratings as well? People seem to also be rather happy. And guy who wear a black shirt. Nice. All right, what is this? Spirit Halloween. It's never too early for Spirit or Halloween. Oh god. Okay, like I said, we're gonna when the fuck did Annie even come out with any of this? Wasn't this the beginning of the month or something? Okay, let's start. Let's kind of let's get a little preview of what exactly happened on the show, which again, like I said, this is all very frustrating to me. I think that's the thing. I think that's why I decided to call an audible and say fuck it. Like it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to watch the left do this fucking Civil War bullshit over, honest to God, mild disagreements as far as I can tell. But let's.
It's bad faith. They know there's a difference between gender and sex. They know that it is very possible for someone to be born a biological male or a biological female,
right?
But in terms of gender, identify differently as a male or non-binary, but they still have the biological capacity.
No. Oh, no. We've already, okay.
Differently as a male or non-binary, but they still have
go back a bit.
Or biological female, but in terms of gender, identify differently as a male or non-binary.
No, that's man or woman. That's
biological capacity, the physical capacity to get pregnant. So that's why the language, the rhetoric is inclusive to include those people. It is not a big deal, but they make it a big deal. They manufacture it into a big deal because that's all Republicans are. That's all they have. This is all they do. Endless.
Okay, so clearly we have an understanding.
You're not goddamn correct. Here, I'll name the name. Lance from the Serps. He's on here all the
time.
time.
Didn't he do a video?
Right?
Yeah, he did like a video.
Video.
Okay, no, let's just start from the beginning, I guess. Where's this terrible precedent? Don't care. Oh yeah, isn't this it? Yeah. Okay. So this was from March. Yeah. I'm a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus. Well, okay. Birthing person or person who menstruates. Okay. How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this shit. What do you... Huh? Okay. Right, yeah. And then... When was... oh, yeah. Yeah, here we go. God. Gonna roast you now. Speak their piece. I respect you a lot, but this notion that the mere existence of trans-inclusive terms, rarely used in casual convo, somehow degrades women. Birthing person. Somehow degrades women, comes right out of the right's anti-trans war on women playbook. There's a reason why they're praising you for this. Hey Mike, you're a guy who has no clue what it's like to have reproductive freedom taken away. But consider what it's like to have the same lawmakers who failed to protect our rights turn around and call us people with uteruses. It's not inclusive to cis women. Okay. How many people are actually referring to you using this language? It must be a lot for you to air grievance in the middle of the international hate crusade against trans people. I'm sure Ben Shapiro is retweeting you because he supports your reproductive freedom, though. It's used by many major institutions at ACLU, CDC, universities, and news agencies, and prominent progressive figures like AOC, and the guilt by association charge is lazy and lame. It's not about guilt by association. The point is far-right fascists are using your tweet for anti-trans propaganda purposes. There's no way you're not cognizant of it. I respect you, but this is really disappointing. I genuinely don't get it, actually. Hey, humanist. Oh, no. Trans ideology is largely Western phenomena. Ah, yes. Oh, no. I also am a woman and proud of it, but fight for every day. But not everyone who deals with reproductive issues is a woman. Speaking with inclusion does not erase womanhood, and you actually can't support a trans. Liz, I have zero problem with inclusion, none. But there's got to be a better way than boiling it down to the body parts now, especially in the context of having reproductive rights taken away from people who just see women as baby-making vessels. What are we talking about? Okay, do people actually use that term? Yes. Well, okay, people don't, but organizations who advocate for broad social groups do. And AOC. So AOC does. Yeah, this was such what I failed to understand. Okay, so let's go over this really quickly. I'm a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus, birthing person, or person who menstruates. Now, let's be really clear. A woman is not defined by a person with a uterus, by birthing person, or by someone who menstruates, right? None of those things are definitionally exclusive to womanhood, basically. If you didn't have one or all three of those, you could still be a woman conceptually with the language that we use. This is the only difference, is that birthing person doesn't just capture women, it captures trans women, or I guess in this case trans men, but it captures trans men and women who also are birthing people. And when you're writing legislation, and specifically when you're writing, and this is the honest to God important one, when you're writing when you're setting guardrails and trying to, I guess, come to medical consensus, the kind of very specific birthing person language ensures that you're capturing as many people who experience that phenomenon of giving birth, right? Like, that is the you by necessity, you need to include those people in your medical practice and in your medical framework, basically, to include all people who can give birth. Some of those are women, but some of them are also trans men. I don't understand what's I guess the thing is I don't see what's degrading about this to a degree. I could understand if there was a, I suppose, societal and more everyday application and replacement from the word woman to birthing person, to person who menstruates, to person with a uterus, right? That would be kind of that I can see being frustrating, but that's not what anybody's advocating for, let alone the trans community. So it's just really fucking weird. But anyway, yep. And then oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is somebody, let's see, can't speak for everyone included here, but I think it's more response to the weirdos on here delight in people losing their livelihoods, and just also this weird thing about her response with Mike from the Humanist Report. Also very, first of all, very catty. I don't give a fuck what Anna thinks. This is very catty energy. But also doing the, you're a guy, you don't know what it's like. Well, Anna, you've spoken on black issues before. You've spoken on you speak on trans and LGBT issues, and you would find the response of, you're not in this demographic, so you can't really that's a bit a little bit of self-awareness here would be nice. But okay, can I ask, God, when did she post this? Are these like a week apart, right? Yeah, the 22nd, and then what, 5 days later? Cool. Can I ask a question in good faith? If being referred to as a biological woman is the context of healthcare, no, you're not a biological woman. It's biological female. Women is not biological. God damn. What's worse, honest to God, what's worse about this is we watched that first video, right? We watched that first video, and I don't know if it's her mistaking or forgetting to use the words woman and female as separate categories, but it is like watching somebody who has one piece of a puzzle missing, and they just sit there with it in their hand and just stare at the puzzle being basically complete, and then getting frustrated they don't know where the last piece goes. Like, why is it somehow less offensive to refer to them by mentioning body parts that belong to biological women? Who is person with a uterus? How is person with a uterus better? What is that even? It's not about better. It's not a better thing. It captures more of a broader spectrum of people, some of which who aren't, God damn it, who aren't women. God damn. Okay, what do you want AOC to say instead of people who menstruate, when she was talking about people who menstruate? That is a trans inclusive. That is trans inclusion doesn't offend you as a woman. You said there must be a better way. What do you think it is? God, Jesus. Oh my God. I don't know how Anna got to this point. Biological woman doesn't really mean anything. Person with a uterus clearly, yeah. Person with a uterus is every person who has a uterus. Doesn't matter, man, woman, you have a uterus. Oh my God. Okay. The truth is New York grand jury indicted itself. Oh yeah, I remember that. Let's see. Terrible precedent. Okay, no. Let's see. Marjorie. Okay, it was talking about Marjorie. All right, cool. Here we go. Yeah, I want to see what the big
out like hacks, and you should be able to mention those.
Okay, let's get the squad in here, I guess.
And you should be able to mention those without like having to classify it as, you know, but you shouldn't get mad at her for this because of her history. No, I mean, no one's mad at her for her history.
I think it makes sense if you want her to change her mind and to understand what she did wrong. Because if it's just, if without that context, like, again, that's why it's important if you know her that you do include that context. Because she has to understand these disagreements are coming from an honest place, and we're not just doing it for clicks, right? Like that's so.
No, of course.
But that's not the same. That's not the same, though. That's not the same.
I have to say it. Oh my God, I have to say it. I like Anna, but I feel a little bit like this is the coddle the white lady hour. And you know why? And you know why? I thought this even earlier, because before this, the Majority Report put out a thing too, and everybody else, and I was like, boy, everybody sure feels the need to trip over their fucking feet to come out to defend her for getting cooked when all of the people get cooked all the time. I have yet to watch a video of anybody defending me from getting fucking cooked. I've never seen it. I've never seen everybody come out. She has a lot of fucking bad takes, and then she gets cooked because she comes out unprovoked. She asks to be cooked. She got up today and she said, Twitter, cook me.
Right.
Actually, I think I found the entire video.
I have yet to watch a video of anybody defending me from getting cooked. I've never seen it. I've never seen everybody come.
We knew when we started the leftist mafia that there would be moments like this where alliances would be questioned. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. Hey, how's Lance going to respond to this? Is he going to try and be diplomatic? Is he going to be some kind of milquetoast centrist? Is he just going to sit on the fence, not do any criticism or commentary at all? Or is he going to ride or die and defend and stand up for every single one of his leftist mafia fam? It's the second one, all right? That's where we're at. In fact, I'm going to watch a little bit of the intro just to get extra.
Oh, yeah.
Пошли. Все вместе. Какие ваши доказательства?
They want you to.
Oh, it's filled with hating ass people. And oh, this is my in. This is gonna be my chance. Here we go. Let's air some laundry. Okay, let's get this out there. Anna Kasparian. Oh, Olay. Do you mean people who demand people cook their friends? Those kind of haters? This was not what? No, that's not what she was talking about. But then things accelerate. Of course.
Is this just Lance going over it? Okay, fine. In that case, I will. In that case, I can just look at the exact same tweets then. Ay. Transphobic statements, and we spent an hour of the show defending you from allegations of being a turf rather than addressing the substantive problems with your comments. I felt bad. I felt like they were coddling you. I stand by back, and you think it makes me a hater. Knock yourself out. Jesus Christ. What is this? If you think the 41-year-old white millionaire male, don't care. Actually, don't care. Birthing person is not a medical term. Remember years ago? Golly. Oh yeah, and then we got
About how he's so correct. And here, I'll name a name. Lance from the Serbs. He's on here all the time on the Power Panel, right? And he comes out and does this video about how he's so correct and oh yeah, the Young Turks, correct? No, Lance, you're not goddamn correct. Nobody elected you. The polling shows no one agrees with you.
Well, first of all, Jank, I think you're well aware that being correct does not correlate with public opinion. Public opinion can be incredibly wrong, and you can be correct. Popular opinion is not the same thing as being correct on an issue.
Your 12 buddies online, I don't care, okay? And say, oh yeah, I'm 100%. He's 99.95% correct. Oh, I'm gonna correct him. No. So don't look. You want to say, hey, I don't agree with you. God bless. You want to say, Cenk, you shouldn't say anything back because you're being rude. Come on, brother or sister. I don't know where. Here, I'll name the name.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, they should have known. We should all be aware that obviously, Cenk is gonna come out, fucking balls to the wall, heavy, ready for a fight. Yeah, if this is just going over it, then we'll just read it all. God, meltdown over wants to be referred to as a woman rather than a birthing person. Who is? I just want specifics. This is my problem with this. Rather than that, you know, over wanting to be referred to as a woman rather than a birthing person. Who's referring to you as this? Who are you talking about? I get the sense that Anna either met somebody or had an interpersonal interaction that left a bad taste in her mouth because they used the term birthing person instead of woman. And then she got on Twitter, on her large platform of Twitter and the large platform that is the Young Turks, and continued to just kind of complain about this, even though catching pushback and catching stray shots from people of her same ideological bend on both platforms, and she's just like nope, people are referring to me like this. People every day, I go into what used to be the women's restroom in my local coffee shop, change it to the birthing person's room, and I didn't like that. Especially as a biological, oh my god. Every time I read biological woman, I age. I age like an extra 2 hours every time I read biological woman. Who is at a fucking lifetime of being told I'm less than. I'm a woman, no apologies. Oh my god. Jesus. Ay. Anna Kasparian had a meltdown. Oh, yeah. And then Ian Miles Chong, naturally. Oh, my God. Oh, I don't follow the damage report. I also don't follow Cenk. I should probably fix that. Let's fix both of those. Let's take a look. Let's see. Did they keep... Okay.
Okay. I love you. And it's okay for one that I read. So I'll just say this. Okay. I love you. And it's okay. And if you disagree, it's okay. If you want to leave, that's okay. Okay. Thank you for being a member all this time. I appreciate it.
Jeez.
But what you're, in my opinion, what your misunderstanding is, and what you have maybe you didn't see is, so all this kerfuffle starts with a simple tweet, and then
I don't. No. So this is disingenuous. I don't appreciate this. This all started from a simple tweet. No, dude, come on. We all do politics here. Every single day, my comment section is filled with assholes being assholes to me because I put out my opinions that are, again, political in nature, which people have a lot of invested interest in. People have a lot of interest and a lot of their emotions tied up in politics because a lot of it impacts their life. So don't give me this like, oh, this just comes from a tweet that, someone that Anna fired off, into the ether of her, however many, she probably has 1 million followers by now, no doubt. But no, this isn't just a simple tweet, dude. This was wait, what the heck? Wait a minute. Son of a bitch. Okay, you guys, how long was she climbing up there? Okay. Well, River, I really appreciate you knocking my stuff down. Anyway, but what I really don't appreciate is this, this wasn't even a big deal of a tweet. It wasn't, it's just Anna being like, I want to be referred to as a woman, never refer to me as a, which, let's be honest here. Let's be fully honest here. That tweet was a bit sussy. It was a bit sussy. It wasn't people calling her turf. I don't think that's what that was. but it was a bit sussy. And for you to claim, oh, yeah, the left has a problem. No. Come on now. Let's be fair here. God.
At least half a dozen videos from other progressives or leftists online, all attacking us and calling us all sorts of names. So maybe you don't see that, so you think like, well, what is Cenk so upset about, right? So they call us all these names and they feel super proud about it, like, we are more pure. So then I fight back on Twitter, and then all of a sudden they're like, how could you insult us? All we were doing was punching you in the face. No, that's a right-wing position. You punch, then you gotta expect that I'm gonna counter, right? I don't mean you, Kid Tester. I mean for folks who are out there. Here, I'll name a name. Lance from the SERPs. He's on here all the time on the power panel, right? And he comes out and does this like video about how he's so correct and oh yeah, the Young Turks, correct? No, Lance, you're not goddamn correct. Nobody elected you. The polling shows no one agrees with you. Your 12 buddies online, I don't care, okay? And say, oh yeah, I'm 100%. He's 99.95% correct. Oh, I'm gonna correct him. No. So don't, look, you wanna say, hey, I don't agree with you? God bless. You wanna say, Cenk, you shouldn't say anything back because you're being rude? Come on, brother.
Listen, I just gotta be honest, I just don't really care to like collaborate with any other leftist ever again at this point.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at, because they on the show.
Why do you have your phone? God damn, why do you have your phone? Stop interacting with Twitter. It obviously isn't helpful. God damn. Like,
they build a name for themselves, and then they build a bigger name for themselves, trashing us as if they don't know who we are. As if they haven't worked with us, they don't know what our actual political values are. So I don't, Jake, I never want to talk about them again. I never want to address them again. It's a waste of time. There's important stuff going on in the country. Our personal drama with a bunch of leftists on Twitter doesn't matter.
All right, last thing I'm gonna say on it, because you brought it up, is that I'm not the kind of guy to back down.
yeah, or aware. And way to make yourself, yeah. Not even a really irrelevance thing. Just, good God. Why? God damn, dude. Why is Twitter such a fucking dumpster fire? Good people watching. Yeah, like. Cancel my TYT sub. Ugh. Publicly on the show. Yeah. And it wasn't in his favor. He DM'd me trying to insist he did not because.
Identify. They know there's a difference between gender and sex. They know that it is very possible for someone to be born a biological male or a biological female, but in terms of gender, identify differently as a male or non-binary, but they still have the biological capacity, the physical capacity to get pregnant. So that
I don't know how, I don't know if this is. Oh yeah, didn't I see Emma? Yeah, didn't I see Emma got somehow into this also? Let's see. Oh God. Yeah, cause Emma. Yeah, here we go. Good news. Oh yeah, 5 hours ago. Yeah, and it's like all of this always gets started like right before the show, which again, good news, we're on the right side. Mission accomplished. Now let me talk to you in a patronizing way about all your opinions I need to correct. Repeated emphasis. The repeated emphasis and reaction have been on social media. I can't speak to the segments you guys have done on the show. This is also the thing. They've never done an actual segment of the show. And like a dedicated, we're gonna put time to this, have this like put our opinions out there, have the whatever, call it a day. They just haven't. They keep responding to it either on Twitter or through the super chats, and keep wondering why, they keep getting a bunch of pushback because they keep going off, in a defensive manner. not trying to be pure. I'm engaging with you even though it's uncomfortable for me because I love you guys and want TYT to be on the right side here. It's really not shocking. I was trying to express my love. Yeah. Good news, we're on the right side. Mission accomplished. Ugh. I was trying to have an appreciation for the company that gave me my star and for my good friend, and in a context, disagreement through action is pretty shocking to me. Jank, have a good. Jesus Christ. Base Sarkeesian. Did Sarkeesian tweet about this? No, I don't think so. I mean, one would have been mad to have everything thought Jank reasonable, but
let's not waste the court's time on jaywalk.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, fair enough.
But here comes the controversial part, the part I shouldn't say.
Sarkeesian.
I believe that I am going.
Sarkeesian never started anything. You're crazy.
The world, I would legalize bestiality where you are giving, where you are pleasuring the animal. You see what I'm saying?
What's up? What's up?
Okay.
Hey there.
Okay. Now why? Why did that happen? It's the dumbest thing
It really is the dumbest thing you said.
No, Sarkeesian is Sarkeesian's the old Gamergate lady.
Was the case that we covered where there was like a guy or a girl or something that was pleasuring a horse, and the horse
mostly just go honest to God.
Right. So who got harmed?
Yeah. Kasparian is what you were thinking of.
Look, not to be about what you're saying,
but I'm doing all right. A bit drunk. Hey, that's the best way to be.
A lot of people who are being
no, wait, no, don't be an alcoholic. Let me not endorse alcoholism.
So like if a guy is
But
being raped, he can
God damn it.
Like you can't.
Listen for a video. By all means. By all means. By all means. I found it entertaining. Hit me with it. Is it on this topic? In 2 days where I didn't. Alcoholism bad. Precisely. What do we got? No, just going over some of I was watching the Young Turks earlier, and just the whole Twitter drama shit came up, and whoa, didn't want to do that. Okay, there we go. And was just going through it. Just something a bit. Oh, okay. Hey, I'll take a bit funny.
By Car Hitler began spewing out of the bathrooms and into our timeline. One really erotic
Cesspool.
book
It truly is a cesspool.
Circulating around the high command of the Third Reich.
Was Burton.
The book was titled Mein Kampf, and it was written by none other than Car Hitler himself.
Oh no.
In this book, Car Hitler discussed expanding the influence of the racially supreme German racing cars by creating long roads through conquered territories that he called Lebensstrasse, or living streets. This appealed to one particular member of the German High Command, who envisioned one long, mighty street that
just trying to
Moscow,
look into some of it. I really didn't engage with any of it on the show, or really personally in my personal time. It's just they addressed it on the show, and it became such a fucking clusterfuck on their show, and I was frustrated before I came on stream because it's the last thing I watched. Besides episode of an anime before I got on, I was annoyed by it, so I chose violence. Everyone knows.
Let's invade the commies, Sesame, which gave birth the idea to call the invasion street Sesame Street.
Sesame.
Using tactics left over from Sonic, Bert made plans to quickly seize strategic
There's a Germany USSR main cities. This is the true history.
Consisted of small clusters of happy trees. The plan would also heavily
not the minions.
Of the minions.
I thought the minions were pure.
To first be approved by Hitler himself. To help convince Hitler to attack the Soviets, Commander Bert called the invasion Barbarossa, which sounded close to Bob Ross, which he knew the old-failed Austrian painter would certainly appreciate. Hitler approved the invasion, which had a timetable of starting during the summer of 1941. Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels heavily backed this plan.
Oh my god, they got the fucking monkeys.
To be a huge mistake, he could easily spin it off as a happy accident.
Dude, those fucking monkeys, I swear.
Shout out to my patrons for selecting this video for the month.
Operation Barbarossa. Thank you for that. That was much appreciated. Goodness. Goodness gracious. That was funny. Okay. Yeah, I don't. Okay, one second. I want to look at. Can I click on? Okay. I think I. Yeah, what the fuck is happening here? Lance is the one. Jesse, don't. Please. And Jank, you both agree with me. Why are you on attack? Like, goddamn. If I had all the people I love and respect telling me this ain't it, the nicest terms possible about trans people, especially from the trans community, then I'd listen. Ugh. Fucking bad fade. 9% of the left, and specifically trans people, disagree with you. And right-wingers and the TERFs are cheering you on and retweeting you. Maybe try a tiny bit of introspection for 2 seconds. Lance tried to. What do you... Okay, whatever. She's doing whatever it is she's doing.
I don't care.
Yeah, the same video. Ugh. Not to mention the fact that they host a show with 5 other people who started the same thoughts and criticisms of their actions, yet they have chosen only to publicly attack and disrespect my black ass. It's always my black ass. What the fuck? Yeah. Ugh. Matt Leck. She's being patronized. She's being charitable and kind. You should apologize and get your ego out of your ears. Yeah, this was, that wasn't. This was, yeah. Yeesh. Okay. The next one. So now that we're done with this, we're gonna listen to a gun debate. I just wanted to get some awareness on this. God. But yeah, we're gonna. Oh, actually, no. First, we're gonna cover the latest mass shooting that you didn't hear about, and then we're gonna listen to a gun debate. How's that sound? Okay, what time? Yeah, we got some time. All right, cool. Sorry, let me reset. You'll forgive me. I usually come on with a lot more structure and an order, but I actually just was in a really bad mood after all that shit. And anyway. So recently, there's been a rash of mass shootings going on around the country that. It shouldn't really shock us. If you've ever taken a look at the gun violence archive, there is a shooting every single day. And what I'm not fully wedded to this idea, but I'm starting to think that it might be helpful each episode to revisit the gun violence archive and go over and make a point of remembering that every single day we do not pass substantive legislation to curb gun violence. This is what we're going to be living with. This is what every community is going to see eventually. This is what we have chosen for us here in the United States. To which we have. In DC, 1 killed, 3 hurt in a shooting outside DC funeral home. What is this? So I'm new here. You seem chill. I mostly listen to Destiny and whatnot. What are you? I am a leftist. Destiny. I need to watch more Destiny. Although, yeah. What is the commie dem lib progressive? Sorry, man, it is a bit shitty. No, you're fine. Okay, Washington. 1 man was killed and 3 other people were critically injured Tuesday in a shooting outside of a funeral home for a homicide victim in the nation's capital, according to police. Metropolitan Police Chief Robert Conti said a police officer was stationed near the funeral home in Northeast Washington, where the service was held when the gunfire broke out around 12:30 p.m. The shooting happened about 20 minutes after the funeral ended for a victim of a homicide who was shot and killed in March. Lovely that. There's fucking shootings at the funerals for people who die from shootings. It's the fucking most American thing ever. Fucking home of the land. Or fucking, what is it? The land of the free, home of the brave? Is that what it is? Yeah. At least 4 people were shot. Conti said 1 man died at the scene and 3 more people, 2 men and a woman, were taken to the hospital in critical condition. According to a spokesperson for DC Fire and EMS, quote, at this point, it appears that several people who were in the block were specifically targeted. Conti said at a news conference about the funeral conference outside the funeral home. We're unsure why that is, why these people were targeted, more or less why they were targeted at a funeral. We don't understand that. Police have made no arrests in the case. The gunfire comes as the country reels. Yep, with gun violence. Let's go. We'll do this. Do we have any? Is this okay? Now again, I said earlier that that this is the result of our inability, disinterest, whatever, to address gun violence in a substantive way. I believe the number is somewhere around 45 to 50,000 gun deaths each year. So, you know, these are just more statistics. This is the cost of having as armed of a society and as freely armed a society as we have here in the United States.
Called out for the sounds of gunshots that had occurred in the area.
Okay.
Our member went to the aid of several people. So far, there were 4 individuals who were shot. These 4 people, ultimately, one of those persons, a male, adult male, is deceased. In total, there were 4 adults who were struck by gunfire. At this point, the Metropolitan Police Department is asking for the community's help. We're asking for anyone who has information to please call us anonymously. At this point, it appears that...
Where was this? This was like in the South? This was like in Southeast, right?
Targeted. We're unsure why.
Home in Washington.
We're unsure why these people were targeted. More or less, why they were targeted at a funeral. We don't understand that.
Okay, we got that quote. Jesus. Now it says 4 shot, 1 killed. Okay, yeah, that's the same exact story. So yeah, I just want, and I think a lot of people have an understanding of this, but always remember, like, the big mass shootings of the year are not the everyday on the ground scenarios that we're living with. We are living not just with that, but with gun homicides, with suicides, with shootings that aren't necessarily mass shootings but have multiple deaths. Mass shootings generally are designated as 4 or more deaths and or injuries. So but yeah, other than that, I just wanted to make that clear. What time is it? Do we have? Okay, I didn't have to spend as much time. Okay, so because we have a little bit more time, should we do the PBD thing? I think that I think I've only watched like one thing on there, but they were talking about the Bud Light thing, and the dude who hosts that, yeah, let's do the Bud Light story. Now, okay, so if you're not aware, I should say, Bud Light recently partnered in a social media campaign with prominent TikTok trans content creator Dylan Mulvaney. That's actually kind of the end of the story. They would like to reach the trans market and reached out to a trans content creator to familiarize their brand with that demographic. And conservatives, in their never ending grace, lost their fucking minds and just lost it over this. Matt Walsh, all the Daily Wire boys, Tim Pool, all of them all whined about how terrible this is for Bud Light, how they're not representing their customers, even though I don't know why a company would represent their customers. It's a company. They're not your representatives. They're not who you vote for, you idiots. They're brands. You buy them because you want their products. Either their products are not good or they are. Like, that I've never understood. But with that being said, there was and I remember looking at this a little bit. There was let me see if I can actually find it really quickly. So there was a concerted effort to let's do 5 days. There was a concerted effort to pretty much boycott Bud Light, right? You probably saw it online. There were a lot of conservatives complaining, shooting their Bud Light cans or crushing them or purchasing them and paying money and then pouring them down their drain, which doesn't really do anything. But this obviously caught a little bit of fire on social media, and there was talk that Bud Light was going to absolutely like destroy their brand or whatever, that it would tank the company, I believe is what Candace Owens says. So to start, before we get into the PBD conversation, I want to kind of just remind everybody. So Anheuser-Busch, the parent company who owns Bud Light, over the last 5 days, they've seen a Now, this looks like a really huge drop. Like this is, whoa, holy crap, that's crazy. It's, let's see, 66.15 down to 64.57. So $1 and some change difference in the stock price, which is that tanking the company? I'm not really sure. Is this, abstracted? You'll look at this and you'll go, wow, that's a really distinct drop over the weekend. Obviously the boycott or whatever must have worked, because markets opened back up at the beginning of yesterday, which was the 10th. So naturally they'd see a dip after they'd see some of maybe like the sales figures. But if we expand this out to about a month, this isn't really that, like, yeah, it's a bit down, but not really ultra concerning from a business standpoint. The last 6 months, they've been on a very high climb. I don't think they're worried about a small dip. And over the last year, they've also been in much worse positions. So, and this should kind of tell you, granted, over the 5-year, yeah, I'm not really surprised. What is this, max? Oh, is this like overall since, oh boy. Yeah. But my point being here is that boycotts don't really work. Not for these kinds of companies. These kinds of companies are way too big, and it'd be incredibly difficult to keep people honest in terms of how much they're actually sticking to the boycott. But we should go take a look at the PBD podcast responding to some of this. This is a podcast there. If you watch the Majority Report, Sam showed up and talked to these guys about taxes. I've seen a few of this dude's videos even before that. He's very, I don't really know. He admittedly, he gives me used car salesman vibes to me, but that just might be me. But he's also very pro capitalism. So keep that also in mind. I feel like he believes that he's ideologically centered when I'm not sure that that's really the truth. What in the blazes? Oh, that's the cat. Okay. What are you doing? Are you just climbing stuff? Do you want out? Would you like out? Okay, I'm gonna let the cat out. Kind of relevant to what you're talking about. There's something really eerie about it. Ooh. Let's see. What is this? This is a phone call to Anna. After the story as a metaphor. What is this? What is this? What is this? Oh, is this Sandy Hook? Oh, is this the Sandy Hook shooter? What do you, okay. Interesting. I'll take a look at this afterwards. Interesting. What's in French? The whole story about Travis actually does bring into concern how much damage modern society inflicts on humankind biologically. Biologically, we are woefully unskilled for many of civilization's demands. That is, speaks very well a certain way of articulating his words unless, oh dear. Okay. Finally, we get to hear Adams. Ooh. Okay. I will set this aside for now, but that's vaguely interesting. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, let's get on with it.
Silent on social media. So Bud Light, silent on social media after Dylan Mulvaney's controversy. Another story comes out talking about Bud Light suffers bloodbath as longtime and loyal consumers revolt against transgender campaign.
In Bud Light's effort to be inclusive, they excluded almost everybody else, which that's not how inclusion works, but okay.
Story. Bud Light has faced backlash. The top-selling beer brand in the U.S. has suffered a nationwide backlash from consumers after it hired transgender TikTok star Dylan Mulvaney as its new spokesperson, according to bar owners and beer industry experts around the country.
It's also not a hire.
Jeff
it's
Fetter, owner of Case and Bucks, a restaurant and
Mutual
Bar and
contract,
Barnhart,
usually.
Missouri said in Bud Light's effort to be inclusive, they excluded almost everybody else, including their traditional audience. Sales of Anheuser-Busch bottled products have reportedly dropped 30%. That is insane over the week, while drought beer plummeted 50%, according to bar owners. 80% of Bud Light drinkers.
Wait. There's a 50% drop overall, and Bud Light suffered a 30% drop of their own. Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. If less people, you're gonna
Something else this week at Braintree Brewhouse in Massachusetts, a sprawling sports bar just outside of Boston.
I also don't know what this guy's take is on the trans issue. So that's what I'm also really curious about. That
draft sales dropped 50.
Yeah, here we go. Your next 5 moves: master the art of business strategy, and it's these. I don't even want to say small business guys. It's guys who sell being successful. Like, that is the product that they're selling. They're not selling a tool. They're not selling a engineering a piece of equipment. They're not selling what they're selling is the concept of being successful. They are selling the brand, not what the brand exists for. The brand, it's like if you bought an Apple logo, like that's what he's selling, not a piece of technology or anything like that. So that's why I say I get real used car salesman vibes from our friend here.
What? In the gay community, while Bud Light bottle sales were down 70%. So what do you think about this whole thing that's going on with Bud Light?
Here's my favorite part of this story is, first of all, I don't give a shit what Dylan Mulvaney does, right? It
totally don't care.
Everybody just do your own thing and stay out of my wheelhouse. But
I want your opinion.
The best part of the story.
Sure. If you got to go here, I will oblige. Where is it? Oh wait, no. What am I saying? I already have it open. Also, the butt thing is stupid. It is fucking stupid. Unfortunately, a lot of things in our world are stupid. Let me turn this on. I'm not gonna put the video up. We're just gonna play the audio because goddamn, this picture's terrifying.
We're back.
Sorry, we got Greg on the phone.
Oh, Greg. Okay. How's it going?
Hi, good. I'm a fan of your writing.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to mix up such an old news story, but I couldn't find anything that you said about the topic, and it seems relevant to your interest, so I thought I would bring up Travis the chimp. Do you remember him?
I don't.
Well, he was a highly domesticated chimpanzee who lived in a suburban home in Stamford, Connecticut.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And he was raised just like a human child, starting from the week he was born. By the time that he was 14 years old, which would be somewhere around age 20 in human years, he slept in a bed, he took his own baths, he dressed himself, he brushed his teeth with an electric toothbrush.
This sounds like
well, this happened in early 2009.
This sounds like what's that? What was the movie? It sounds like Nope.
He ate his meals at a table and enjoyed human foods like ice cream, and he used a remote control to watch television and liked baseball games, and he even used a computer to look at pictures on the internet. And it goes without saying that Travis was very overweight. He was 200 pounds when he should have been around the low hundreds. And he was actually taking Xanax.
Amazing.
I couldn't find any information about why he was taking it, but it just seems to say a lot that he was given it at all. And basically, I think Travis wasn't really any different than a mentally handicapped human child. But anyway, one day in February 2009, he was acting very agitated, and at some point grabbed his owner's car keys, went outside, and started leaping from car to car, apparently wanting to go for a car ride. And he was acting very aggressively, so his owner called her friend over to get her to help him to calm down and go back inside. And once she arrived, he immediately attacked her, and his owner tried to stop him, but couldn't, and she even resorted to stabbing him with a knife, but nothing worked. And she said that after she stabbed him, he looked at her as if to say, "Why'd you do that to me, Mom?" Because apparently that was what their relationship was like, no different than between a human mother and a human child. So after the stabbing, she called the police, who arrived 12 minutes after the attack, at which point her friend was pretty close to dead. And
Yeah, this sounds like the chimp from Nope.
Went over to it, tried to open the locked passenger door. He smashed off the side view mirror, went over to the driver's door, opened it, and the cop shot him. He fled back into the house, where he went to his playroom and bled to death. And this might not seem very relevant, but I'm bringing it up because afterward, everyone was condemning his owner for saying how irresponsible she was for raising a chimp like it was a child, and that she should have known something like this would happen because chimps aren't supposed to be living in civilization. They're supposed to be living in the wild among each other. But their criticism stops there, and the implication is that there's no way anything could have gone wrong in his life if he had been living in civilization as a human rather than a chimp.
Indeed.
So interested in Travis, because he brings up questions about this whole process of child raising.
Yeah.
Isn't something which just happens to gently exist without us having to do anything, because every newborn child, human child, is born in a chimp-like state, and civilization is only sustained by conditioning them for years on end so that they'll accept it for what it is. And since we've gone through this conditioning, we can observe a human family raising a human child, and I'm sure that even you have trouble intuitively seeing it as something unnatural. But when we see a chimp in that position, we viscerally know that there's something profoundly wrong with the situation. And it's easy to say there's something wrong with it simply because it's a chimp, but...
I just want to say, overall, this person, and it shouldn't really come to a shock, but incredibly, I think mentally ill. Incredibly.
What's the real difference between us and our
This hyperfixation on this would be concerning to me if I was like a doctor.
Just feigning domestication.
I'd be a bit worried. This is very sus behavior. This is not behavior or observations of somebody who I think is fulfilled and well adjusted.
And got along with everyone. If Travis had been some nasty monster all his life, it would have been widely reported, but to the contrary, it seems like everyone who knew him said how shocked they were that Travis had been so savage, because they knew him as a sweet child.
Like,
and there were two.
Honest to God, some of the comments I'm reading too, I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know.
But summarizing them,
I'm gonna turn this down a bit. But like the comments,
he didn't act really any different.
he sounds very articulate. Her words are crisp, and every pronunciation after each word is to the point. He was very intelligent, very self-aware of his own surroundings, his own mental suffering. Yeah, no, he clearly wasn't. If
civilization did to him,
yeah,
the same exact effect on him as it has on humans. He was profoundly sick in every sense of the term, and he had to resort to these surrogate activities like watching.
This is kind of what you'd expect the ravings of somebody who kills a bunch of kids. Yeah.
And his attack wasn't simply because he was a senselessly violent, impulsive chimp, which was how his behavior was universally portrayed. Immediately
our world, our culture, and our society is so corrupted and broken that it shoots itself in the foot. Our society asks for shit like this to happen. The world is absolutely messed up, and we don't deserve it anymore. Ugh.
Some little thing he
This comment section is the picture of mental health. Of mental dishealth, I suppose. Jesus fucking Christ, I've seen a lot of messed up stuff in my lifetime.
He knew how to deal with that was by getting his owner
And nothing has ever terrified me more than that. Yeah. Fucking stare. Yeah, it's pretty.
Owner's friend
This is definitely referring to himself here.
back into his life of domestication.
This interview is so weird. Online is talking to John Zerzan about Travis the Chimp. Our society is so fundamentally flawed, no wonder he went insane, really. As an autistic person, I can really relate both to him and Travis because it really does like world that I belong to. I don't understand. Jesus Christ.
The acts of violence that you bring up on your show every week, committed by humans, which the mainstream also has no explanation for. And no. Actual human, I just don't think it would be such a stretch to say that he very well could have been a teenage mall shooter or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
That's quite a story. Yeah, that's
Jesus. Yeah, I thought this sounded familiar. This is yeah, this sounds like what the intro to the movie Nope is referencing. I think I had heard that this was a mostly real thing that happened, but I never really looked into it as in media. Let's see. Yep. An attack similar to the incident depicted in 22 film. Nope. Animal chimp is startled on set and attacks its human co-star. As a young woman is mauled by the chimp in the film and is shown years later. Get her to wear a mesh covering over her face similar to the one worn by Nash. Jesus. Yeah, man. Fucking animals are not people. I don't really. Ay. Anyway, well, I hope that covers my opinion on that. That was kind of disturbing and the ravings of a madman. This is why therapy and mental health treatment is so important when we address, in terms of addressing our mental health crises here in the U.S. This is why I'm a supporter of Medicare for all and broadly mental health care for everybody, as many people as we can get on it, because good Lord, do people need it. It's very important. But thank you for that. That was interesting, disturbing, but very interesting. Anyway, okay. Okay, 1 second. Let me move this around. There we go. Okay, cool. Nope, not that. There we go. All right, cool. Oh boy. All right.
Aintree Brewhouse in Massachusetts, a sprawling sports bar just outside of Boston. One pup in Hell's Kitchen, a New York City neighborhood known for its large and vocal gay community, reported that Bud Light draft sales dropped 58% in the gay community, while Bud Light bottle sales were down 70%. So what do you think about this whole thing that's going on with Bud Light?
Here's my favorite part of this story is, first of all, I don't give a shit what Dylan Mulvaney does, right? It doesn't matter. Everybody just
it doesn't matter.
And
it doesn't matter.
Wheelhouse. But the best part of the story is I did watch the VP of marketing for Bud Light. She came on and she said, look, she felt like the brand needed to be more inclusive, and they needed to get away from their frat beer image, right? Because
Makes
those
sense.
son of a bitches don't drink beer.
No.
Right? And so she said, she quoted, she actually said, female representation is a personal passion point of mine, right? So what does she do? She goes out and gets a guy with a penis, you know, and says, hey, I want you to promote my beer, right? Well,
horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre, right? But again, I go back to the same thing. I guess at the end of the day, I don't mind pointing out the stupidity of that.
Yeah.
But I honestly, on the other side of the coin, I don't give a shit what people do.
Yeah.
We're also, worked up over. Although I will say this, and I asked the other day, I asked someone who's very smart. I said, and I was genuinely confused. I said, is a transgender woman, is that a dude who identifies as a woman, or is a transgender man? I couldn't figure out which is which.
Yeah, I think if you're a transgender male, you want to be a female, correct? Like you identify as a female.
Ay.
Or you're a woman.
Nobody knows.
Nobody
knows. We're both in the same.
Oh yeah, let's actually break down what this guy was saying, because
worked up over. Although I will say this, and I asked the other day, I asked someone who's very. So what does she do? She goes out and gets a guy with a penis. My wheelhouse. But the best part of the story is I did watch the VP of marketing.
That's what it was
for Bud.
I actually wanted to see this. I didn't end up watching this, or at least I didn't end up seeing it. But hit me with this. But let's see. Yeah, can I get the Bud Light? I don't care. VP of marketing? VP marketing? Is it the VP of marketing? I know admits they're panicking about. Yeah, show me the video. Stop being cowards. I want the video. I want to see what the actual person said. Okay, maybe. Let's see. Oh wait, is this it?
Exactly what they were doing. They know that Gen Z
No,
as
this is on
older and
TikTok.
older are starting to age into drinking age. They know that Gen Z is far more enlightened.
Oh, here we go.
And their new marketing strategy, and why they're basically, take a look.
I'm a businesswoman. I had a really clear job to do
Cool.
when I took over Bud Light. And
Makes sense.
it was, this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a really long time.
Which we actually did see.
And if we do not attract young drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light. So I
Makes
have
sense.
this super clear mandate. It's like we need to evolve and elevate this.
But she is right. It has been on the decline. We saw that in the stock prices
what
earlier.
I brought to that was a belief in, okay, what does evolve and elevate mean? It means inclusivity. It means shifting the tone. It means having a campaign that's truly inclusive and feels lighter and brighter and different and appeals to women and to men.
Makes sense.
And representation is at sort of the heart of evolution. You've got to see people who reflect you in the work. And we had
Makes
this
sense.
hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of bratty, kind of out of touch humor.
True.
And it was really important that we had another approach.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that.
Okay, shut up. You're stupid. I can already tell you're stupid. Just based off of you. Yeah. So essentially, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. She was literally like, yeah, we need to get a different demographic in here.
Bud Light. She came on and she said, look, she felt like the brand needed to be more inclusive and they needed to get away from their frat beer image, right?
Makes
Because
sense.
those son of a bitches don't drink beer.
No.
Right?
Well, wait a minute. So here's the thing. You already have their money. Bud Light's already frat house beer. You don't need to sell to them anymore. It's hyper focusing on that specific demographic and that market will decline your brand. That's why they haven't been doing as well, because they're just thought of as a frat boy brand. Frat
And
house
so,
brand. Sorry.
she said, she quoted, she actually said, female representation is a personal passion point of mine, right? So what does she do? She goes out and gets
So
a guy
unfortunately,
with
she
a
said
penis.
woman.
You know,
So
and says, hey,
Yeah,
I
that's-
want you to promote my beer, right? Well,
horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre, right? But again, I go back to the same thing. I guess at the end of the day, I don't mind pointing out the stupidity of that.
Yeah.
But I honestly, on the other side of the coin, I don't give a shit what people do.
Yeah.
We're also, worked up over. Although I will say this, and I asked the other day, I asked someone who's very smart. I said,
also, do you think this only just started now? Because we saw that big decline and they've been steadily trying to climb back. I wouldn't be shocked if their outreach to LGBT circles isn't multiple years old by this point.
And I was genuinely confused. I said, is a transgender woman, is that a dude who identifies as a woman, or is a transgender man? I couldn't
be
figure
a
out which
biological
is which.
male.
Yeah, I think if it's
Who
you're a
identifies as
transgender
a
male,
woman.
you want to be
As a
female,
transgender
correct?
woman, yeah. Mhm.
Like you identify as a female.
Or you're a woman.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Me and we're both in the same boat. I don't know, but going back to it, this is a classic case of get woke, go
one day
broke,
I
or
can
whatever
get
the thing
a-
is. And Pat, you were talking about marketing during the Giuliani thing.
Oh yes, guys, get woke, go broke's always been a lie. You can find minor cases of this, and even then, when I say minor, it's like minor.
What a horrible decision! Like, have
Do you
you
know who's
ever like this is the
Coors
worst
and
demographic?
every
you've
other
ever, have you
beer
ever been
brand.
around a bunch of gay guys and like, hey guys, let's just mojitos, and he's like, no, you know what? I'm just gonna do a keg stand of a Bud Light. Nobody's no gay. I've never seen a gay guy holding a can
That
of
is
beer.
such a good point.
Do you
By the way,
guys-
this
Wait a minute, but that's the wait. You all think that you're smart businessmen. If there is a demographic of Americans who aren't holding your beer in their hands, don't you think it behooves you to get them motivated to do a keg stand, to hold that beer in your hand? Don't you think it's a commentary on the beer specific industry's disinterest in the gay or in the gay or any other community outside of frat boys, specifically when we talk about Bud Light? Like, yeah, they already have the frat boys money. Don't you think it'd be better to have both of their money? Have everybody, like, this is the whole thing with capitalism, isn't it? You try to get everybody's money. I don't.
So this is the girl
I
he
thought
was
these were
talking about.
business
This is the
guys.
VP of
Yeah,
marketing. You have to listen to what she says. Watch this here.
Oh, thanks. Sweet. Oh, they brought it up.
I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light.
Rainbows in the
And
back.
it was, this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a really long time.
Which it is.
And if we do not attract young drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light. So I had this super clear mandate. It's like we need to evolve and elevate this incredibly iconic brand.
Anyone
and
misses that rainbow
what I
painting?
brought
of course,
to that
that's their
was a
fault.
belief in, okay, what does evolve and
probably their
elevate mean? It
children's
means inclusivity. It
drawings.
means shifting the tone. It means having a campaign that's truly inclusive and feels lighter.
It means selling more beer to frat boys.
That's
what it means. But watch what she says. She says the whole
But you don't need to. So this is what they don't understand, and this is where I think their capacity to actually claim to be businessmen makes me think that they're not very good at the whole business thing. Because if they knew anything, they would know that broad support and broad buy-in by everybody, to be synonymous with everybody, is the goal, not to hyper focus on one specific market. Because the frat boys who drink Bud Light aren't going to spend more money. They already spend their allotment for beer on Bud Light. So if you want to increase sales as the price of goods goes up, as the wages that you don't raise fast enough go up very slightly to recoup those costs, you need to make more sales. You need to move more product. And to do that, a good way to do that is to reach out to a demographic that you're not reaching right now, right? If this was if we went back in time and did like Bud Light's gonna appeal to black people, you know what they would say? Black people don't drink Bud Light. Why would you want to sell to them? Well, duh. Black people buy shit. They make money. They spend money. Why would you not want their money? Like, it just sounds stupid once you abstract it to a different group, but to any other group. But because it's gay people, because it's trans people, it's suddenly like, oh, we can't. What do I do? How can I enjoy this crisp, water-like, gross-ass Bud Light if there's also a trans person somewhere that's going to who's going to find joy from this crisp, tasteless, gross-ass Bud Light as well? Well, it's just. I've never understood. And these guys claiming to be businessmen. Spare me. This is the first rule of business. You don't hyper focus on one demographic. You're going to find yourself declining within, after you've hit your peak with that group.
Is it sort of the heart of evolution? You've got to see people who reflect you in the work. And we had this hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of fratty, kind of out of touch humor,
that made
and
you billions.
It was really important that we had.
It's in decline.
But by the way, if you can pause this, here's what's crazy. Can you Google the profile of a beer drinker?
Yeah. By the way, her kid, those panties in the back, horrible. That kid's not going to be.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The brand's in decline. You can say whatever you want. It's in decline.
When you do the profile of a beer drinker, you know what you realize? 80% of beer drinker are men.
Yeah, 100%.
20% are women. This is kind of like, working for Trojan Condoms.
Yeah.
And you're the VP of marketing. And
wait, but why wouldn't you want to increase the raw number of both of those? If you make $2 million in sales, let's use round numbers. If you make $100 million in sales of Bud Light, 80 million of those come from men, 20 million of those come from women. Now, what if you could make $110 million and have 80% of that come from men, 20% come from women, and an extra $10 million coming from trans people? Wouldn't you want to make that extra 10%? And if you are a consumer of Bud Light, in what way does somebody else drinking the beer that you're drinking affect you at all? At all. Stupidity is what it is.
Well, we're not targeting 6-year-olds. We have to start targeting all the audiences. We're not being inclusive.
Or targeting women.
No, but the whole.
Why wouldn't you want more women's sales?
The way she sells it, how she's thinking. The whole transgender community. When you go online and you type in what the transgender population is, Do you know how many transgender people live in America?
0.5 of 1%.
Well, the number says 1.5 million, right? But what they're saying 1.5 million as identified as transgender, it's not really 1.5 million.
Right.
It's a lot of Gen Zs that are confused. The question becomes, how many transgender?
Yes. Well, first of all, even if they're confused, do you think the company gives a shit? Do you think Anheuser-Busch gives a shit? As long as they are eligible to drink, and them doing a campaign that motivates those Gen Zers to drink their beer, that's the only thing they're interested in.
In America are over 21 years old, okay? Do you know how small of an audience that is? And you're trying to target that audience, and you go away from your beer drinkers, and now you lose 30% in a week?
$4 billion. She's not going to be working there. That decision should cost her job. But you know what'd be funny though? The commercials, Mike. I want, like, the hell with the Dylan Mulvaney commercial. I want to
also keep in mind, conservatives aren't the majority of this country.
Bitch, slams it out and then chugs a beer. That's the commercial that they're gonna have to start making commercials for now.
I disagree with you. I think she's probably going to get a promotion
Her?
because we're all talking about Bud Light, right?
Not
Now,
wrong.
I know the
No,
sales
that
are going
is
down,
kinda right.
But she was put there for a particular reason, right? And this is her job. Her job is to do this. So she has actually done her whatever they are, KPIs or key performance indicators.
Yeah.
You know, that's what she was put in place to do. That's the beauty of, I guess, from her position is.
Yeah, and if you have KPIs, if you know what demographics and what products are selling well, then you can see where your weaknesses are. And if there's no room for you to continue to grow that large number, your best-selling item to your number one consumer demographic, if you've hit that ceiling, what do? You then need to cultivate from some of those other resources and from some of those other products and demographics. This isn't really unique. This is only really a story because conservatives online, mostly content creators, got all up in arms about it. But I can promise you, they're going to say, oh, sales went down, all this stuff. Give it a week, give it 2 weeks, give it a month, and you won't hear anything about this anymore. I guarantee it. You're not going to hear about it come summertime. You're not going to hear about it come the beginning of football season. It'll all be over. And now there's infrastructure in place for them to market, not just to the people who are always going to drink their beer and we're always going to drink their beer, but also to another demographic, to another group, to increase all those possible sales.
She probably really isn't being, judged based on the increase in sales. She's just got this narrow swim lane that she has to stay in, which is, are you being inclusive? Are you performing this mandate that we brought you in for? And she's probably got some additional tack on there, which is VP marketing and inclusivity or something along those lines.
I'll tell you what, I'm so glad we actually played that video from the VP of marketing, because if there's somebody that we can kind of point a finger to and say, all right, that's the person. Because picture this. We do this all the time. We have meetings. We say, all right, guys, what's on the agenda? We have a marketing issue. We got a content issue. We got to figure this thing out. So you sit down in the boardroom, 10 of us, and we say, all right, guys, we have a problem. Bud Light's been declining in sales. How do we increase sales? And then one person says, we got to go trans, bro.
Yeah.
We got to go right to the trans market. Yeah. Not getting innovative, your next innovative campaign. Not like, okay, cool, identifying who is actually drinking our product. It's going to the woke include.
Wait, you don't think they already know and can identify who's buying your product? And also, the information that is key to this is it's not about who's buying your product, especially when your sales is based on volume. The amount of beer you're selling is the important part, right? What you want is more sales from the demographics and groups that you're not already doing well with. There is a soft ceiling that you're going to hit with any of this stuff. It becomes routine. You're not going to see big sales numbers rise because of very specific campaigns sometimes, or events, Super Bowl season, that sort of stuff. But outside of those times when people are buying beer, and Bud Light, for this example, I guess, the question becomes, how do you get to the other people? The people who don't buy during football season. Can you, while you wait for your football season fans to buy, can you market to somebody else and get their dollars to kind of compensate for that loss of revenue right there? So it's just, they're fucking dumb, and they're bad business people, and they pretend and LARP like they are.
Inclusive, ESG, bottom line, which go woke, go broke is a real thing. And then here's another point.
Yeah, tell me about Captain Marvel.
This whole concept of being inclusive. When you're being inclusive to the point of just sort of virtue signaling, just the point of your being exclusive, you know who you're excluding? Your whole fucking base of people that basically got you to this point.
Yep.
So it's so ridiculous to me. Like Mike said, I don't have a problem.
So if there are people, and let's be really clear here, if there are people who are offended that trans people are buying Bud Light, then that's those people's problems. But that's not the concern of Bud Light. It's just not. It's not something they're worried about, because everybody's individual little hang up of like, oh, how dare you sell to trans people? How dare you sell to black people? How dare you sell to them damn Hispanics? Whatever. Like, Bud Light doesn't give a shit. As long as you buy the beer and they buy the beer, then they're all right. And if you stop and they start, guess what? That's a 1-to-1 trade, meaning they've lost nothing. So, again, this comes down to media narratives. And unfortunately, we live in a world where the right wing, very specifically, the right wing media ecosystem will jump on any company, any corporation, any business entity that does not reinforce their specific value set as a target for harassment and boycotting. Because of what? Because the value of the company? No, it's because they have their own social and in their feelings, it hurt over not being the center of attention. And any business will tell you, look, are we going to take a hit in sales? Absolutely. There's going to be some percentage of the people who buy our product who are going to be offended that we're now selling and marketing to somebody other than them. They're going to feel unspecial. They're going to not want to buy this as much, right? You factor that into this. And then from there you go, but we'll pick up X amount of sales, X percentage from this other group that will not only compensate, but put us over the number. Now, that's a gamble that you make, and Bud Light's going to find out whether that, depending on how hard they work, they can either fill that gap with the trans and LGBT community and the left broadly, or they won't be able to do that. But it has nothing to do with this tribal bullshit of like, well, I'm like your lawyer, you should never make a commercial that doesn't appeal specifically to me. It's the ownership of brands. It's fucking cringe, and it's very stupid. And either way, those people at the end of the day aren't loyal. That shows you who's loyal of your customers. You don't want those people. They're fickle. You don't want them. They aren't consistent.
Dylan Mulvaney, I don't give two shits. Do your thing, buddy. Yeah. But when you start trying to indoctrinate the rest of us to be like, hey, think this way.
Yeah. Right.
Now, this isn't the first time that we've had a hot water. Bud Light's
also, I don't know what indoctrination is.
A month ago for International Women's Day,
I would love to talk to these fucking idiots.
She basically had a transgender woman as the face of Hershey's.
Cool.
A couple years ago, do you remember the Gillette commercial?
How did I miss the Hershey's?
Yeah,
Ended the world.
No more chocolate for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hershey's faced backlash over putting trans woman on a candy bar wrapper. Not a woman, not a female.
I love how they get all their news from Fox News, by the way.
A chick with a dick is the face of Hershey's. But then. Do you remember a few years ago when Gillette had their commercial, "The Best a Man Can Get"?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
For years, they built our brand on like being man. Like, I don't know if you know this, most women don't shave their face. If they do, stay the hell away from me. But they basically went woke, went broke, and
there are women
lost billions of dollars
this guy's
by
fragile.
trying to basically curry favor from the Me Too movement feminist agenda. And dudes who shave their face are like, I ain't playing this game, buddy. Like,
Adam, as a single guy, Dylan Mulvaney is not at all your type.
No.
I just make sure.
I'm old school.
Yeah,
I like
let's
vagina.
clear that up.
Let's not forget who started it. You know who's responsible for all this? The Kardashians. They ruined. Bruce was like, you know what? It was you. Bruce used to be Bruce Jenner. He became Caitlyn, and in 6 months, they named him Woman of the Year.
You know what he said though? You know what he said about this yesterday?
What?
Did you hear what he said?
She.
Well, he's
whatever.
not supportive of this.
Okay.
Right.
He commented yesterday, and saying.
Okay. So do you remember when did that Gillette commercial come out? Gillette, what is it? What did he say? Best man can get ad? Is that it? Can be, sorry.
Bullying.
We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this was 2019? Cool. Let's take a look. You know, since these guys are businessmen, you know, since they're supposedly smart, let's take a look, shall we? Let's do 5 years? Yeah, let's do 5 years. Actually, no, let's do max. Let's get a full picture here. So, Gillette initially and originally publicly traded, looks like around, when is this? 1999. Pretty big bump up, pretty steady growth, but not impressive growth. Not until the 2010s, certainly not until 2015, and not until, let's see, peak of 2018. And look at this. One of its highest grossing periods was all in 2019. All of this. Let me zoom in. I don't know if you can, like this entire huge bit right here. This entire huge thing is 2019, which means it would have encompassed that entire campaign. So if you're asking me, oh, did that ruin the company? Probably not. Because if you notice, the drop immediately starts in 2020. Would you like to know what happened in January of 2020? I think you know. So when these guys say like, oh, you know, remember the Gillette thing, go woke, go broke? Nope. Go woke, do incredibly well. This was their largest peak was in October, meaning it was around probably Super Bowl time, probably when that ad aired. So yeah, you can spare one with that one. It obviously took a dive during the pandemic because everything took a dive during the pandemic, but in no way is that surprising. So keep that in mind. These guys, I don't know if it's lying or if it's just they're just not very smart. I don't know what it is. Probably the latter.
These are domestic terrorists. She made comments about it. She's like,
Caitlyn,
I'm not.
Caitlyn said this?
I'm not doing this. So she's against what's going on today. I mean,
did you see what Kid Rock did, by the way? You see that video?
The shooting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I try to avoid seeing what Kid Rock does from day to day, but before I forget, because I'm getting to that point where if I don't say something right away, I forget. A buddy of mine who's a comic, Jimmy Fallon, he talks about Caitlyn Jenner, and he says, "Look, we all forget he was the fucking GOAT, right? He was
decathlon.
He was an incredible athlete, right? Yep. And so when he did come out,
you know, I'm just gonna say it. Nobody until the Kardashians got their show gave two shits about Bruce Jenner. I'll say it. I'll just say it. Nobody cared. Nobody knew. Nobody gave a shit.
To your point, yeah, they were all like, "Oh my God, isn't she brave?
Yeah,
she gets the ESPN award. She gets she's on
Woman
the
of
cover
the Year,
Vanity Fair, or whatever."
Yeah.
And then as soon as she started talking, to your point, as soon as Caitlyn Jenner came out and started talking conservative, they were like, "Fuck her,
fuck him,
yeah,
fuck him." They changed it.
Whatever, get him out of here.
Get him out of here with his balls.
But you know what that means?
Well, actually, no. The left and people who were accepting of Caitlyn Jenner's identity weren't upset about their identity and weren't misgendering them. They just said that their politics were cringe. I don't need to misgender Caitlyn Jenner to say they're a dumb fuck and somebody who's been rich long enough and probably has no fucking clue about the issues that affect people like like her, but you know, she's rich, so she doesn't have to deal with any of that shit. So it's not important to her. Trans issues aren't important to Caitlyn Jenner because she's not victim to any of it. Who gives a shit? She's rich. She can go live elsewhere, anywhere in the world, do whatever it is she wants. It doesn't matter.
Is that whole concept is it's politics over America.
I agree.
It's ideology over America, and that's what's one of the reasons why we're experiencing what we're experiencing right now.
And Pat, going off of what Mike said earlier, like the decision that the VP
America is not an ideology. America is
like, yeah, good for you, like
a melting pot
Pat, as a CEO, your company gets this backlash, and you lose $4 billion of the company's worth. What do you do as a CEO? What are you doing when that happens? When the VP?
But you have to realize there's two different things.
Yeah.
This would never happen to a startup that's being ran by a founder.
Yeah.
Companies are being ruined after a founder started it years ago and is no longer around. Those are the companies that are being ruined because the founder would sit there and say, do you even know what was the reason why we started a company? Do you know who we started it for? Do you know what this product was?
Yes. Oh, yeah. This dude also is really, really into capital ownership, which I'm not. So,
what the hell are you doing? Who approved you doing this anyways? I want to talk to the CMO that approved your campaign. There's no way VP of marketing can get that approved without a CMO signing off on it or a CEO saying this ad is an approved ad to do what you're doing. There's no way that approval
also, what's funny is there isn't an ad.
It is.
They just did a partnership on TikTok.
There's a lack of accountability there. It just costs them a lot of money. But I'll tell you the other
conservatives are ready to jump on literally anything.
Anytime there's a mishap like this, there's opportunities for
I just realized this is on the wrong setting.
You know the whole thing with made in China? Guess what all these guys started talking about? Our clothes are made in the USA. Our this are made in the USA. Our that are made in the USA. You know how many breweries right now are sitting there using this as an advertisement? The most creative one is going to be the one that's going to get market share the next 3, 6, 12, 24 months. You're going to see. And for us, when he said...
Does he really think that local breweries can compete with Anheuser-Busch, the owner of Stella, like a million other beer brands? Yeah, good luck.
She's doing her job. Well, what is her job? If her job is to increase, because Anheuser-Busch, if you look at can you Google Anheuser-Busch's ESG score? They have one of the lowest ESG scores in America, okay? I think it was like 13.8% or 8. You'll see it when it comes up right now. What's the number? They have a very, very
Why are they
low
all
ESG
obsessed with
score.
ESG scores?
There you go, 19.6, which is low, right? Lord and Heineken, super low score. Industry rank 18 out of 607, okay? So they're not at the top of the game. They're doing bad, low. Okay, so what do they need to do?
Yeah, so what? It's an ESG. I feel like the ESG score stuff is like everyone just heard about this with the, what was it? What was the, I'm trying to think, what was the last product that conservatives got mad about? Was it the SVB? Yeah, I think it was. I think it was the SVB collapse, and suddenly people were like, we found an ESG score, that must have been why, even though that had literally nothing to do with the capital risk that they were taking on and the way that their bank was structured. But you know, it's a narrative, and these guys obviously don't do their homework. They just kind of listen to, honestly, probably people like Tim Pool, and they read Fox News and they go, you see, there it is, it's wokeness.
If the goal was to increase the ESG score, bingo, she won. So
Yeah.
to your point, you're right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
She's accomplished whatever it was that was jammed through the boardroom at Anheuser-Busch, and they hired a whole.
Oh my God, this is like all speculation. Okay, we're done with this. I'm done. This is stupid. These people don't actually know what they're talking about, and also aren't really aware of the dynamics of what's the word I'm looking for? Of the moment in America. Because at the end of the day, when you're making these business decisions, when you're doing all of this stuff, you kind of have to keep in mind that there is this entire ecosystem. And again, I said it earlier, it's conservative media ecosystem that will tear you apart if you do anything out of line with their values. Now, their values mean it might cost you money. And if you know how companies work under capitalism, your goal is not to make people happy. It's to make money. So that's why they run into this problem. But either way, okay, I'm gonna take a really, really quick break to kind of reset, and then we're gonna do we're gonna listen to a gun debate, and that'll be the end of the show. So stick around. I be back in a moment. Okay. Alrighty. Alright, cool. Anyway, alright, so the last this week? No, maybe like the last week. Probably the last week. I've been talking a lot about guns, and since the Nashville shooting, it's been in the news and everything else. It's kind of the it's always a reoccurring topic that we have to talk about. But something that I've been unable to basically find out in the wild are someone to debate, someone to talk to about the issue of guns. Luckily, I just kind of got lucky that this debate by Collier Noir and I forget what the other guy's name is, but we'll go through it. Popped up. I watched probably the first maybe 5 minutes of it. So we're gonna kind of go over it. I want to actually hear and respond to some of this and kind of vibe out and everything else with it. So we're gonna do that. Might play like a video. Right? Could we play a game while we do this? Maybe. Possibly. Maybe. Trying to think. What could we play? I do have. Let me check my Steam. Check my Steam account. Do I have anything that we could that's not gonna be uber distracting to me? Ooh, there's an update for Phasmo? Ooh, okay. What if I did Cooking Simulator? That kind of might be fun. I know how to cook. Maybe. I think that's. I do this. Request access. Oh, I have to request access. What is this? I guess technically. Let's go with I was gonna say I'll play Phasmophobia while we listen to this, but it's an update, and I feel like I'm not gonna be able to download that and do that all at the same time. So I'll figure something out. But anyway, let's just get into it. This is a bit long. It's on the 45-minute side, so let's just get into it.
We are so thrilled to be joined by John E. Rosenthal, co-founder of Stop Handgun Violence, and Collier Noir, a gun rights activist, a lawyer, and the host of the web series Noir. John, Collier, welcome to the debate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so thanks so much to both of you. So
Look, before we kind of get into some more nuts and bolts here, some specifics and all that, let's kind of give you both just an opportunity to just kind of frame
Okay, John
your
Rosenthal is the
overall
other guy.
approach
Okay.
to all this. Basically, kind of just get out your, 60 to 90-second elevator pitch, if you will, as to why gun rights are good or bad. So, Cole, let's start with you.
Oh, well, for me, I started off not being pro-gun or pro-Second Amendment. I was largely kind of apathetic, kind of leaning towards anti. For me, as I got further into it, for me, it kind of was just a thing that I became a fascination from a physics and just enthusiasm standpoint.
Guns are
From there, I
cool.
started getting into the more political aspects of it. And the more I learned, I started to realize that my ability to protect myself with a firearm, to me, is probably one of the most important aspects of things that I do in my life, largely because the most important thing I have is my life. And I can't depend on anyone else, not because no one wants to help me or will be willing to help me in the event that I need to, but it's just is what it is sometimes. And so that ability to depend on myself to protect myself and
1 second. I'm going to pause this before this makes a big sound. There we go. Are there not fucking sound options? Okay, I know what to do. Oh, there's not. There's not, are there? Oh man, that's kind of lame. Oh wait, we can put the sound. We'll do the sound in here actually. Here, where's the volume mixer? We'll turn this like really far down. Yeah, that seems good. That seems good. Okay.
and the people that I love, to me, is one of the most important things you could possibly have in this world.
And John?
Yeah, I too am a gun owner and a business person, and I've been the lead advocate for gun violence prevention here in Massachusetts. And I did that starting back in 1994 when I realized, 19 kids under, 20 years old were dying every day. 106
Jesus.
Americans dying every day from firearms. And that was largely due to bad public policy leading to bad public health outcomes. And so I built a big billboard. Again, I'm a gun owner. I support the Second Amendment. Built the 250-foot billboard on the Massachusetts Turnpike near Fenway Park, put up messages around gun safety. And since that point, here in Massachusetts, urban Massachusetts, we've reduced the rate of gun deaths by 40%. We're an urban state with the lowest gun death rate in the nation.
I can't make it smaller, sadly.
Cost of gun violence, and we've done it without banning most guns. So I believe that there is a way to work within the Second Amendment and also save lives without infringing on law-abiding gun owners.
So it sounds like actually there's a lot of agreement here. You both support the Second Amendment, believe it should exist. I'm sure, Kolyan, that you oppose gun violence. So let's try to drill down a little bit more into where exactly the disagreement lies. And John, I wonder if you could tell us how you accomplished that feat, and then we can ask Kolyan if he agrees with the methods that you used.
Sure. So what we did is simply look at the gun constituent groups. And like with automobiles, put in place laws and regulations that require accountability and responsibility on the part of gun owners, gun dealers, gun manufacturers, and law enforcement. So here in Massachusetts, we have renewable gun licensing just like automobiles. We require safe storage and safety training like automobiles. We became the first state in the nation to require that gun manufacturers put minimum safety features into their guns, like trigger locks and magazine disconnects if the magazine is not in the handle of the gun. And basically we regulate real guns like, the National Consumer Product Safety Commission regulates toy guns, but prohibits the regulation of real guns. And then we created a opportunity like with automobiles where it's discretionary licensing based on your history, and law enforcement literally can police officers who issue the licenses here in the state, like a car license, they have discretion if they know that you've had a history of violence, but say there hasn't been a restraining order taken out against you. And that led to red flag laws. But all of this is to say the only thing we ban are military style assault weapons and large capacity ammunition magazines because law enforcement are given 13 to 17 rounds in their service weapons. Where's the logic in giving the
I just want to validate some of his claims here for a moment. So, this is organized by gun murder rate per 100,000 as of 2015. So these numbers are going to be a little bit out of date. But as you can kind of see, obviously Louisiana, Missouri, South Carolina, Delaware, really bad in terms of the gun murder rate. Colorado actually only at 2.1, which, oh wait, no, 1 second. There we go. That's what I want. Green. So we got Hawaii at 0.3, New Hampshire at 0.6, Oregon at 0.8, Utah 1.1, Maine 1.2. Yeah, God, it's hard looking across those. Massachusetts 1.2 gun murder rate. So very low compared to your, even let's take a notorious state like Illinois, which is, which is 3.4. So it's about half that number, a bit, or maybe a little bit less actually, but a little less than half. But either way, in terms of the rate, yeah, we got Wyoming. Yeah, you don't get into the orangey until you get to Iowa and then West Virginia, Montana. But in terms, Idaho, South Dakota, Minnesota, a lot of these, so some of these can be attributed to very low populations, but also I guess this is, if it's per capita, then it doesn't, highest being white, which is Alabama and Florida, which apparently are the, what's this? Supplemental homicide data were received or no data was available, naturally. Let's see. Oh, as of 2019. Okay, let's see more current numbers. Let's see. Massachusetts still at 1.2. So they've done a good job at curbing gun violence, at least.
general public 35 to 100 round magazines to outgun police without even an ID or a background check. So it's accountability and responsibility without banning most guns.
Oh, my eyes.
Proven that gun laws
So dry.
work without banning most guns. And if every state, we have the lowest gun death rate in the nation here in Massachusetts. If every state had the same 3.5 per 100,000 firearm fatality rate, 27,000 of the annual 40,000 gun deaths could be saved nationwide simply by having uniform national laws like we have proven to work in Massachusetts.
So, Colian, a lot to.
Okay, so that's okay. So I like the way he started with that, mainly because he's not starting out with we want to get rid of gun deaths or something that's unrealistic. He's laying out, these are the actions we took, these are the results we get. And if we extrapolated this out to the United States, it would save this number of people on average. This is what we can expect to see if we implemented what we implemented here in Massachusetts, which I really like. There's really, at least from a debate standpoint, I like that because there's no way to argue against it. Plain and simple, it's been now demonstrated. These are the results. You can either adopt them for other states or you can't, but that's a choice no matter what. Whichever one you pick from there, it's a choice that you're always making. But I like that. That's good.
Respond to there. Anything you disagree with?
Yeah, so I can start off at the top. The main thing would be the whole notion of banning military-style assault weapons. They're AR-15s. A number of them are right here behind me. Those aren't military weapons. They're semi-automatic. What they ban are these weapons. But when you call them military-style assault weapons, generally speaking, they present this idea that we're talking about the same guns that the military is using. They're not. These are specifically civilian weapons designed to be owned by civilians. And not only that, they account for such a fraction of the gun violence in this country. The fact that there is such a specific focus on them, especially when they try to justify it by saying, well, this is the gun of choice by mass shooters. That's not the case either. The vast majority of mass shootings are actually committed with handguns. So from that perspective, it begs the question. So go ahead.
No, I just want to follow up with that. I mean, you're getting at this point, I think, already. But look, I'm a proud owner of a Daniel Defense 5.56. I own thousands of rounds of ammunition. Less than 2 months ago, I visited the Warsaw Ghetto in Warsaw, Poland. Went to Treblinka. I view that weapon as my last defense against a situation such as that. So, Colion, why don't you kind of build that case out for me? Why don't you kind of go to like the full kind of like gun rights? Why don't you kind of just explain the broad stance as to why folks like you and I view these weapons as an actual bulwark against true government tyranny?
So I think the funny thing about that, and that's the last point you stated, is really important because people overlook or gloss over the biggest aspect of why we have the Second Amendment in the first place. And the reason we have the Second Amendment is to keep our government in check. And a lot of people don't want to say that because it's like, oh my God, you want to talk about taking over the government. That's not what it's saying. We're talking about a country that was established by people who had to deal with a tyrannical government. And
wait, what does that have to do with anything, though? Wait, go back.
Less than 2 months ago, I visited the Warsaw Ghetto in Warsaw, Poland. Went to Treblinka. I view that weapon as my last defense against a situation such as that. So, Colion, why don't you kind of build that case out for me? Why don't you kind of go to like the full kind of like gun rights? Why don't you kind of just explain the broad stance as to why folks like you and I view these weapons as an actual bulwark against true government tyranny?
So I think the funny thing is
the
last point you stated is really important because people overlook or gloss over the biggest aspect of why we have the Second Amendment in the first place. And the reason we have the Second Amendment is to keep our government in check. And a lot of people don't want to say that because it's like, oh my God, you want to talk about taking over the government. That's not what it's saying. We're talking about a country that was established by people who had to deal with a tyrannical government. And they had to collectively come together with their own arms to fight that government. And so as a result...
Right. Okay. So I can accept the idea that, okay, well, you know, our Second Amendment is put in place to, push back against a tyrannical government, all that stuff, right? I can understand that. But if you have an understanding that that's why it's there, does that not tell you something that, maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Does it not tell you that the Second Amendment was written into our laws in a moment of political strife and political necessity? Do we still have that necessity today? I don't think so. And we also don't have the same relationship that we do to our government as the British did, or as the Americans did to the British at the time of the Revolution. I just don't think that comparing these two times are really applicable,
Of that, whenever they put together the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they enshrine that ability within that Constitution so that going forward, in the event that we had to deal with a government, whether it be foreign or domestic, and the people needed to protect themselves and protect their property, protect their lives, protect their families, protect the country, they could do that readily so. You can't do that if the domestic government has control of all the guns and then say, well, yeah, you have a right to own a gun, but the domestic government is going to have control of all the guns. Therefore, you have to go and ask them for the guns to stop them from being tyrannical. That just doesn't make any sense. And so that's why we defend the ability to own the AR-15 so vehemently, because back then when it was established, yes, the government, they had muskets, and so did the people. They had muskets as well. And so you fast forward to today, our government doesn't have muskets. They have machine guns. And we're not saying we're only asking, but we can barely hold on to our AR-15s as is. So from that perspective, it says, well, if the Second Amendment was designed to keep the government in check, why can't we have the arms necessary to do
So
that?
that's the thing, is it's not designed to keep the government in check. It was designed and it was put in place at a political moment where there was a government isn't even the way that you would describe the British rule at that time. It was a monarchy. There wasn't government in the same way there was now. There wasn't representation of regular people within the system, especially Americans in that system at that time. So, and also once again, this is this always falls flat for me because people will say you need guns to check the government. But we are far past the point in which regular Americans can fight off the government with their AR-15s. It's just not going to happen. So when you say, oh, it's for that use, you're delusional. You're saying the equivalent. So the delusional take from the left and from the anti-gun side is an all-out 100% ban. It's delusional. It's not possible. It's not a thing that we can do in this country and maintain our civility, basically. But, and this is the thing, the opposite end, the opposite side of that delusional coin is I will defend myself from the government with this one specific kind of weapon. That's also fucking delusional. It won't happen. You will get drone struck and it'll be over. This sort of sentiment is dumb as fuck. The same way the idea that you can do an all complete ban is also dumb as fuck.
My follow would be, I find this whole kind of mini debate about so-called military style assault weapons, from my perspective, otherwise known as technically undefinable and cosmetically amorphous subset of semi-automatic weapons that certain people think look particularly scary. I find this whole mini debate just completely intellectually dishonest, because something, as Colin was saying, something like 95+% of gun murders in this country are with handguns, right? So why are we avoiding the actual discussion here? Why are we talking about something that's not handguns? I mean, should we just be debating whether to ban handguns or like strictly very, very, very tightly regulate them at least?
The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And until 2008, with the Heller decision, the DC versus Heller decision, that meant you had the right to a militia, which is a National Guard. And every court, including the Supreme Court, decided that way until 2008 with the Heller decision. That's number one. In the Heller decision, let me hold on. Let me finish. I let you speak. Let me.
Just one point. The only reason I'm pausing you is because sometimes what tends to happen is multiple points get made.
Did we
and you don't
skip?
break them down. I just want to address that aspect.
Am I crazy? Did we skip?
Like you and I view these weapons as an actual bulwark against
government, whether it be foreign or
Is there
domestic.
a cut?
And the people needed to protect themselves and protect their property, protect their lives, protect their families, protect the country. They could do that readily. So you can't, and we're on.
As Colin is saying, something like I find this whole kind of mini.
So from that perspective, it says, well, if the
ability without banning most guns, we've proven that gun laws work.
Of the gun violence.
The logic that when you hunt humans, that's number one.
Okay. Debate just completely intellectually dishonest.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Something.
This is somebody else. I don't know who.
Like 95+% of gun murders in this country are with handguns, right? So why are we avoiding the actual discussion here? Why are we talking about something that's not handguns? Should we just be debating whether to ban handguns or like strictly very, very, very tightly regulate them at least?
The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And until 2008 with the Heller decision, the DC versus Heller decision, that meant you had the right to a militia, which is a National Guard. And every court, including the Supreme Court, decided that way until 2008 with the Heller decision. That's number one. In the Heller decision, let me hold on. Let me finish. I let you speak. Let me.
Just one point. The only reason I'm pausing you is because sometimes what tends to happen is multiple points get made and you don't break them down. I just want to address that aspect of it point for point, if possible. If not, if you just want to spit it out, that's fine.
Let's let John finish, and then we'll give you the last word of the segment.
So, Scalia wrote for the majority in 2008 that you can't ban guns in the common use of the time of the founders. Those were single-shot black powder. He also said, I am not talking about military-style assault weapons like AR-15s. They were not protected. And you can look at his decision that he wrote for the 5-4 5-4 majority. So, and
That's
I
a game
actually
of
had
5.
this conversation with Justice Scalia before that decision at a dinner. And he absolutely thought it was rational to regulate military weapons and that they shouldn't be in the hands of civilians. You don't use them for hunting. In fact, I hunt. And when I hunt, I have to get a license. And when I hunt deer, I'm limited to 5 rounds. And when I hunt duck, I'm limited to 3 rounds to protect the duck and deer population. Why is it? Where's the logic that when you hunt humans, no limit? And by the way, if you really think you're going to fight a tyrannical government who has nuclear weapons,
fucking delusional,
tanks, B-52s, what is your AR-15 going to do for you?
So
I
then
can tell you one thing it's going to do, which is there have been 374 mass shootings of 4 or more people this year alone. And without an AR-15 and a large capacity ammunition magazine, you're going to have a very hard time killing a lot of people quickly and outgunning police who only have 13 to 17 rounds. Don't you remember Las Vegas with AR-15s? 558 people shot in minutes. You're not going to do that with a handgun and a 10-round clip. You're going to do it with military-style assault weapons. They are made to outgun police, and you know, we've heard he wants his AR-15 in order to outgun police that can't be trusted because they're like could be a renegade government. That's just a false choice and a ridiculous argument when you're going up against a sophisticated military.
Oh, is that the thing?
I find it ironic that you talk about how lethal the AR-15 is in one respect with respect to mass shootings and outgunning police officers, but then in the same breath says it will do nothing to fight back against a tyrannical government.
With nuclear weapons and airplanes?
Wait,
so you're saying that our government would...
Whoa. Yeah, no shit. The idea that a regular American is not overpowered, like if you're a regular citizen, a normal person going into your office job or whatever, yeah, it's somebody who shows up with an AR, which by the way, not very concealable, even if you're going to your office and conceal and like with a concealed carry weapon. Yeah, if somebody rolls into your office building with an AR, you are immediately outgunned. Whereas if you roll up with an AR to the fucking White House, you tell me if you're outgunned or not. I don't know. Okay.
Nuke the American people.
No, they're just drone strike you. You're saying that you're going to open fire on the American military? No, I'm just saying that the government has those weapons. Your AR-15 isn't going to do
John, his
anything.
his argument is that if the government were to hypothetically go full tyrannical, they wouldn't go
Full
in
tyrannical.
carpet bombing cities.
No, they would
it
just
be Gestapo
It
style.
would just be drone strike.
It
It would be drone strikes. That's what it would be.
But let's
Is that the country you think we live in, Josh?
I mean, we literally live in a country that was founded and established on them literally fighting back.
Well, I personally don't think we live in a country where the government would consider carpet bombing whole cities as opposed to going.
Yeah, keep in mind that was like colonial time. That was colonial times. How is that relevant at all to the relationship that we have to our government now? As much as these guys see, the problem is these guys think they're like the founding fathers who were fighting for representation in their government. They're not. Republicans get to vote. Conservatives get to vote. The thing that they're upset about and the tyranny that they are so concerned with is the tyranny of the majority, because they're not in the majority anymore. They're just simply not. They're a minoritarian party. And now that they've seen their political power devalued and stripped of a lot of its institutional backing, now they say, oh, well, you know, now we got to go buy guns to combat the tyrannical government. Notice at the end of the day, you guys aren't not being represented. You have senators, you have representatives all over this country that are Republicans. You don't even need any of these weapons against the government. You don't need it. Our founders needed it. There was an invading force. They were creating their own sovereign nation. It's not what you're doing. You're going to fucking go into the range every couple of days a week and firing off and pretending, yeah, man, when the government comes and takes my weapon, and that's when I'm gonna fire back and no, dude, you're gonna, like, if it ever got to that point, you're getting drone striked. Understand that you're getting drone strike. The U.S. military is not going to have you pull a victory on with some piffy little AR-15. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous, disingenuous, and stupid fucking argument because it distracts from the actual change we could be making. Because now we're having a conversation about government tyranny, everything else. It's like, oh God, now we'll never get off of this because it's always going to be about government tyranny. It will never get on the gun safety part.
Going door to door confiscating weapons. But let's pick this up on the other side of a break.
This is The Debate, a Newsweek podcast. So our guests are John E. Rosenthal and Kolya Noir. We are discussing gun control, gun violence, mass shootings have come up. So let's start there. So Kolya, I'm interested whether and to what extent you think mass shootings should be part of this conversation at all. Like, to what extent should we be addressing our gun laws to those events?
I think they should be part of the conversation because people are dying as a result of people using firearms to kill people. But if we're going to talk about it from a statistical standpoint, vast majority of deaths in this country by way of firearms are suicides. And I mean an overwhelming number. We're talking 65%.
Which is true.
And then after that, when we talk with respect to homicides, the vast majority of the homicides that take place in this country are happening in very specific targeted areas in this country that have the same socioeconomic problems. And then when we get to mass shootings, there's such a statistical anomaly compared to everything else with respect to gun violence. I have to beg the question, why are we overly focused on them? And I get it. There is a fear component there. The idea that you could be anywhere where, generally speaking, you don't expect to engage in that type of violence. But at the same time, the same reason why I carry a firearm. So if I have a certain fear of going to a movie theater because of a potential mass shooter, that's why I want the ability to carry a firearm when I go to a movie theater or any other place that I go to.
Right. So the idea is I'm responding by buying my firearm just in case somebody else who bought a firearm isn't responsible for him with it. To which the obvious question is, why don't we just make it harder for the irresponsible person and easier for you? Or at least have some systems to be able to weed out those irresponsible people. Then you wouldn't have to be scared of that. If you're buying your firearm, and I mean this, if you're buying your firearm because you are scared, a lot has already happened that can be addressed. But if all you're interested in, like this guy who, let's be honest here, is funded by the NRA, it's always, no, I need this to protect myself from the other people who buy guns. Well, what if we just solve the problem of the overdistribution of guns? Well, that's not the solution I want. Well, I don't know what to tell you then. If you're scared about this thing, why don't we fix it? But their fear isn't something that they're actually concerned about. The fear gives them the ability to become that, like, John Wick, I gotta protect myself kind of guy. Like, that's why they've become that, is out of fear. But that fear's only a justification.
Because every one of these individuals, not everyone, but the vast majority of them, they've attained their firearms legally with respect to mass shootings. So there is no law that you're going to create that's going to prevent that. It's just not going to happen. So from that standpoint, we need to go beyond the idea of legislation and deal with the problem in the moment.
I want to pick up on that, Kolyan. And John, the points Kolyan makes are really important. Of the annual gun deaths in the U.S., 2/3 are suicides. 1 in 5 are young men, 15 to 34, killed in homicides. Half of them are Black. A lot of women are killed in domestic violence situations. And it seems to me that, so if that is the vast majority of gun deaths in America, and each of those sort of requires its own attention, its own focus, its own kind of a law. How do you respond to something like that? I mean, AR-15s are not really being used in any of those situations, which account for the majority of the violence.
Yeah, the simple answer is when it comes to suicides and suicidality, that is a mental health issue. We can address that through mental health. That is, we don't, in terms of guns, guns are only the tool in which people use for that end. But in terms of the mass shootings and gun violence that we see in the country, that isn't demonstrated in other less gun-saturated countries, yeah, that's where we need to come up with laws and figure out ways to stem a lot of this stuff. But yeah, the answer to that is universal healthcare and universal and a focus on mental health care. But that's a completely different solution. It's why, like, when they say, oh, gun violence is a lot of handguns, yeah, you're right, because a lot of people buy handguns because they're cheaper to kill themselves with. But that doesn't mean that the rest of it isn't a problem. He mentioned earlier the results that they were able to get in Massachusetts from by enacting all of these laws that don't infringe on responsible, legal gun owners, but does trim down the amount of irresponsible gun ownership.
There have been 374 mass shootings, more than days of the year this year, and that's a 4.
Same with this year.
We've made it so easy with large capacity ammunition magazines that are, again, greater than police carry. People die and police die when they have to reload. And to provide these large capacity ammunition magazines and military style weapons to the general public without a background check,
really,
including handguns, without background checks. Handguns will amount to 90% of the gun violence today. Now, here in Massachusetts, where we ban these military style assault weapons, we ban the large capacity ammunition magazines, and we require criminal background checks for every gun sale. We have had less gun violence. And in fact,
Kevin,
every
can you write in this
state
book?
that has criminal background check requirements for all gun sales have lower gun death rates than every single state with lax gun laws. So how you address it? And by the way, we have reduced suicides because we've made it harder for people to get guns who have a history of mental health problems. And after every mass shooting, what we hear, it's not the gun, it's mental illness. We have more gun violence in America than the 26 industrialized nations combined. And the big difference is easy access to firearms without ID or background checks in 32 states and at thousands of gun shows. Every country has mentally ill people. We happen to arm them undetected with high-powered weapons. That's why we have an epidemic of gun violence. I don't want to ban guns in this country. I just want to require accountability and responsibility. And how do you know if somebody's a criminal, or how do you know if they have a mental health record unless you do a background check?
I really need to hop in here. So we talked about the Heller case earlier.
Who is this other person?
I happen to be a constitutional attorney by training. I literally own a Colt single action Army revolver that I got engraved Scalia on the grip to name after him.
I
because he
literally,
wrote the Heller
yeah, you're a
decision.
simp.
I've read that decision
I
probably
get
dozens of times.
I get it. You're a simp.
I
You've
think
always been a
the
gun
narrative
simp.
that was
It's
presented
fine.
earlier, that the in common use phraseology in the majority opinion only refers to single shot muskets, is just straight up wrong. That's just not how originalist constitutional theory works. And in fact, that's why any number of lower
Well, first of all, if we're doing originalist we're doing I hate the originalist plain reading bullshit. The militia thing is in there. Why is it we never talk about that? Like, state militias already exist with their state guards. So why the fuck is there this idea that, oh no, that means everybody? No, it says in a well-regulated militia, but it's something that we've just decided we're not going to debate anymore. Mainly because the Supreme Court already did it. But the Supreme Court, crazy idea here. I know I'm gonna break some hearts here, but crazy thought. The Supreme Court can be wrong and dishonest and politically motivated sometimes. Just saying.
courts across the country have used that exact majority opinion to say that because so-called assault weapons that are actually in common use cannot be banned. Obviously, they can be regulated to certain extents, but specifically taking this because we can't seem to get off of the so-called assault weapons topic, I have a very simple question for you,
Because the
John.
assault
Can you
weapons
define
topic is the
what an
only.
assault weapon is?
Ugh, it's so boring.
Yeah. An assault weapon like the AR-15 that was used at Sandy Hook, where my friends had to identify their children by their clothing because after getting 3 to 11 rounds each with a 223 round made them indistinguishable. Now that is not a weapon you use for hunting, and it is for killing people. It is designed for that round. It is designed to stop an infantry.
She is right.
It is designed
It's not
to
a hunting.
not
It's
penetrate
not a hunting
your
rifle.
body. I would say that is a military style weapon.
And Kalyan, you could go ahead, Kalyan.
There was a lot of fallacy in a lot of that. Actually, 22 round is actually used quite often to hunt. I've hunted many a times with
a 223.
Yes, I did. It's what I use to hunt.
And you eat that?
Come again?
That meat after it's received a 223 round?
Yeah, why wouldn't I?
Well, the way it's destroyed, like human tissue is destroyed with a 223 round.
All rounds of ammo destroy human tissue.
What?
That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to do that explicitly. So I'm a little confused.
And so you're advocating using 223 rounds?
People do it all the time.
223,
And how about
5.56.
for stopping humans, do you advocate for that too?
I use 9mm as a self-defense round that I carry to protect myself if another human tries to kill me. And sometimes.
And do you think it's fine for people?
Why don't you use a 223 round then? Let's take a look. 5.56, 223. Yeah, it's essentially a 5. Actually, let's see. Show me. 223 rem. What's the difference? Small difference, big impact. Oh yeah, you can kind of see how much thicker that is. Yeah, 5.56 NATO, 223 Remington, yeah. Yeah, these will fucking shred you. Also, do you need it for, just because you use it for hunting, do you need it for hunting? No. Anybody who hunts with this kind of caliber is a fucking coward.
To have without an ID or background check and to
I've had
use in mass shootings?
Background check for all of these guns here. Vast majority.
Right.
I don't know where this notion that.
So you support background checks? Is that what you're saying? You support background checks for everybody?
I don't support universal background checks.
Why wouldn't you
So
support
Colin, walk us through
universal
that
background
argument.
checks?
Talk to us about, the whole gun loophole, quote unquote, how you see that.
I don't know
And then I
how
would also
you
like to
could
address another
advocate
point John has brought up
for.
a few times. I want to understand.
I don't know
your
how you
position.
could
Is
be
your position
pro
that,
background
there are
checks, but
problems with
not
some of
pro
these
universal
laws,
background checks.
and thus we have to accept that even though some of these laws would prevent gun violence, we can't implement them because they are unconstitutional? Or is your position that actually they don't prevent violence in the way that John is proposing? So talk to us about those issues.
Well, he's probably...
Largely, whenever we have this conversation about background checks, it's always propped up as we don't have background checks. We do have background checks in this country. If you go and you buy a gun from a gun dealer, whether it be at a gun show or at a gun store, you're required to get a background check.
Well,
That's
we
by
also
law.
don't have registration. either.
However, in a lot of states,
universal
many states,
registration
vast majority of states, you can sell a gun privately.
Yep.
I can in Texas right now. If I had a friend, if I'm aware that he is not a felon,
So it's almost
and
like
he's not
Texas is the
prohibited from owning
problem.
a firearm, I can sell my personal gun.
Also, keep in mind, if you live in Texas, and even if you know that your friend is a felon and does not have a right to carry a weapon, guess what? You can still sell him his weapon, and there is no way for them to prove that it's yours or that they got it from you. Because there's no registration. Unless you have registration and it's registered to you, or you've said that, oh, it was stolen, my friend stole it, whatever, guess what? You just supplied somebody with an illegal firearm. That's how easy it is. And you're leaving a loophole for people to either knowingly supply firearms to people they know couldn't get them otherwise, or you're leaving it open and you're letting regular citizens determine just through feels if somebody is eligible to own a firearm. Have you ever sold a car before? Do you know what the process is for privately selling a vehicle? It's a pain in the ass. It is not a simple, easy, and nearly as transparent or non-transparent, I should say, process as it is selling guns. And here's the difference. Cars are kind of important to get around. Our guns? No, they're just simply not. There is no day-to-day use case of owning firearms unless you're reacting to the fact that we have too loose of gun laws and too loose of gun restrictions. Unfortunately, it always comes back to you're reacting to the problem by reinforcing the ability for people to create the same problem. You're never going to address it. The idea is like, oh, if I just get more and more armed, but asking this of everybody is ridiculous. And certainly the idea of us centering our society around this mindset, around this approach, idiotic.
I can sell all of my other personal items to him without a background check. I don't have to require him to get a background check.
Right,
what
you
the
should.
universal background checks he's to do is to require me, if I wanted to sell a gun to my friend or a family member, like for instance, I gave a gun to my mom gave a gun to my mom years ago. It would require that they would first have to go get a background check before I could sell them that gun.
Is that hard?
And so the idea is that by doing this, we would be able to prevent criminals from buying guns privately and then utilizing them in crimes.
Yes.
My argument is,
okay,
how do you enforce such a system? It is inherently going to be on an honor system unless you have a national database with every single gun that records every single transaction.
Well, that is what
that
people
would be a
would
national
like.
registry, which we do not have. I am against a national registry.
Right. So the solution to this, the question is like, oh, it would be really hard to do this. Oh, okay, here's the solution. We just have a national and state registry. And then he goes, oh, but I'm not in favor of that either. And it's like, all right, so again, you don't like any of the solutions. This is the issue I have. And this is why these are always disingenuous conversations, I find. Because it's always you give them a solution and they go, I don't really like that solution. And it's like, well, what do you want? Like, this is the problem. You don't want anything. You're okay with the way it is now, which that's fine if that's how you feel about it. But the rest of us, a much higher majority, like much larger, probably plurality, if not a majority of the country, does not agree with this and has been asking their representatives to pass laws. But because their representatives are paid off by the NRA, same with this guy, their representatives will give them the same exact spiel of, oh, well, you know, we can't do this because of this. We can't do that because of this. And even though this would conceivably solve this, we can't do that either. And it just becomes a quagmire.
Because by and large, they do not stop crime. So even if you had a criminal who went out, bought a gun, even got a background check for that gun, and let's say the gun's registered. If he's going to commit a crime with the gun, he's going to still commit the crime with the gun. The registry does not prevent him from doing that. However, what it does do is give a database to the government.
Yep.
Informing them of exactly all the guns that I have, where they are.
Yep.
And so if in the event further down
I'm
the line,
okay with that. They also know
decide
where your
that
car
they do
is.
want to ban guns completely
Oh, hi.
and confiscate them. They don't have
boy.
to go door to door. They can just threaten me with sending me to jail. Hey, Cohen Noir.
Well, yeah,
you
that
have
is
these 5 guns according to our national registry. We have a mandatory buyback, which has been proposed by a number of our politicians and currently our president. We have a mandatory buyback.
Has it
You
been
have to sell
proposed
back
or has it
your
just been
gun at a
talked
fraction
about?
of the price. And if you don't, you go to jail. And guess what? We'll know if you don't because we have them here on this registry. They don't
Sounds
have
good to
come
me.
to my house except for when they come to arrest me for not doing that.
Yep.
And so then I want to
so what's the
touch
problem?
on something that John pointed out. With
I actually don't
respect
see a
to
problem with any of
magazine
this.
capacity.
If we
He talks
pass
about-
laws and you don't abide by them, then yeah, you go to jail. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Also keep in mind, all of this hysteria is if we pass the registry, if we passed the laws on background checks, and then the government decided we're also going to implement a mandatory buyback program. Do all of those things necessarily have to happen? No. Only one of them can happen. Only 2 of them can happen. 3 of them could happen. But do I think that the mandatory ban, the mandatory buyback program is realistic? Not really. I wouldn't even call for that. I would oppose that. Most leftists would oppose that. But it's easy to pretend that that's happening or pretend that that's on the horizon because everybody would disagree with you. You see, they take the argument all the way from the reasonable position of where we are right now, and they walk you all the way to the most extreme, unrealistic, and quite frankly, not even talked about outcome that's being discussed right now. And then they say, see, it will naturally lead to these natural steps when there's no evidence that it has. Massachusetts implemented a lot of these laws. Have they banned guns? No, because at the end of the day, there is a large constituency for guns and a large lobbying movement that is pro-gun. So all of this is just made up nonsense and hysteria.
The idea that lives are saved whenever somebody's forced to reload.
That's not fair on pause. That's not fair on pause.
What happens then if we have a magazine limitation
That's not fair on
capacity of
pause.
10 rounds, and then we have another mass shooting? We'll be sitting here again having the same conversation. You'll be saying, why does anybody need 10 rounds? We need 5 rounds. And then we'll do that, and then later on down the line, there'll be another mass shooting, and then you'll say, well, why does anybody need 5 rounds? We need to limit it to 3 rounds. And we'll be having that conversation up until the point where I no longer have the ability to put any rounds in my firearm.
So, Colleen, I just want to put...
that's all
it's
hysteria.
So interesting.
That's
I do
all
want to make
hysteria.
sure you get a chance to answer this point John has made, though, which is that, are you arguing that these laws, for example, a registry, are you arguing that, well, maybe it would save lives, but at what cost? At the cost of our civil liberties? Or are you arguing that it actually wouldn't save lives at all, and that a lot of these sort of laws actually don't work to prevent gun violence in the way John has suggested?
Yeah, did you notice he didn't ever address that part of the question? Because she asked both in the beginning, and he took it to like, the tyrannical government stuff, because that's all that they know how to argue against. They only know how to argue against a tyrannical government, even though there's no evidence that we have that or that that's being proposed or on the horizon. None of it. None of it.
Both, actually. I don't think a gun registry would do anything to mitigate any of these crimes.
It's too bad we have data that says it would.
These are suicides, and then the remaining are gang and drug violence that happens in our inner cities in very specific areas. These kids are getting these guns illegally. Gun registration isn't going to do anything to stop that. Not to mention, red flag laws are inherently.
Wait, how do you think people? Wait. How do you think people get it? You do know that nobody builds guns outside of the capital system, right? Like understand. These guns don't come from nowhere. Some kid in Chicago who buys like a Glock off of somebody, off of some dude out of his fucking trunk. You do realize that guy had to purchase that firearm from a dealer or from a private citizen or from a shop who had to purchase that from a manufacturer. If from the manufacturer and from the the gun store or whoever, that weapon was already registered and ready to go and then signed over to that person, you could then find the person that sold them that specific Glock, find them and arrest them, and there goes your arms dealers. Registration necessarily is going to cut down and cut into the ability to traffic illegal firearms. Because once there's a paper trail on every single gun manufactured in this country, it is going to be that much harder to get away with selling them on the side, selling them out of your trunk, selling them for people who will participate in dubious means, and you not being able to track it. What registration would do is allow us, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, to track the firearms used in crimes back to the person in which where it came from, and then find that person if they're a dealer. If they got it stolen from them, then obviously they're just going to say, oh yeah, my Glock got stolen. I reported it to the cops. But somebody had to buy that from somewhere. So this is what I mean when I say registration. I know doesn't like, but that's how that would work. It would cut down on a significant amount of illegal arms sales inside U.S. borders.
Unconstitutional.
John, a lot for you to respond to here.
Where do you want me to start? Where is the logic? Now, if you're a criminal and you can't pass a background check, you don't have to go to a federally licensed dealer who's the only one that has to run a background check. So private dealers can operate selling guns without background checks to anyone, cash and carry with no ID. Now, every single state, that has a background
I'd love to
check
keep playing
requirement
Phasma, but
makes
I
it a
don't think my
little
PC,
harder for
my laptop can handle it. And doing
criminals
this.
to get guns. Has lower crime rates, lower gun death rates, lower suicide rates because we just make it a little harder. So
wait, but John, can I just push back? John, can
yeah.
I just push back on that a minute? How do you know if it's like correlation or causation, right? Like, when you take an inner city where there are so many problems contributing to gun violence, right? And you compare that to, rural Massachusetts, right? I mean, how can you tell that it's causation and not that there's another, that this is a correlation?
Well, you would study per capita numbers, not raw numbers, because the raw numbers, Chicago, any city, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Dallas, Houston, any big city is always going to outpace any rural area in terms of gun deaths. But if you're looking at them through the lens of per capita, or if you try to compare those numbers in an apples to apples way, then you can see a trend in how certain legislation affects communities broadly. There is a way to extrapolate those numbers. You do have to look at them in a very specific way, but you have to equalize what you're looking at, which is going to be crime rate or gun death rate in this case.
Because we're looking at gun-related injuries and deaths. So it's not that difficult to compare states. The National Center for Disease Control and Prevention does an annual report every year of firearm fatality rates for every state. And so Massachusetts happens to have the lowest gun
And keep
death
in mind,
rate. We're
rates,
an urban state,
rates is per
by the way.
capita.
We're not
Rates
a
is
rural
not
state. We're an urban
just number.
and we happen to be next to Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont that don't have background checks for private gun sales. But
that's interesting.
Massachusetts
Okay.
has and New York and New Jersey and states that are urban states but have effective gun laws have lower gun death rates than Texas, Wyoming, you name it. You name the rural states. And, we're all experiencing, mental illness in our states, but we just make it a little harder in these states that have gun laws, and you have less suicides too. So, it just makes no sense to have this bifurcated system. If you can pass a background check, you go to a federally licensed gun dealer. If you can't pass a background check, no problem. Go to one of 32 states and private dealers. Now, I don't buy, this argument that it's just to protect family and friend sales. That's not the problem. The problem.
Also, keep in mind, I think we've looked. This is a different chart, but what's it called? 29 firearm death rates and counts by state. Yeah. So when you look at this, this is per 100,000 people. Do you notice New York, California, rather light compared to New Mexico, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma? I forget what this one is. I think that might be Missouri. I could be wrong. There's a reason for this. Same with the Alaska. These are rates. Again, let's see. Because watch. All right, Rhode Island. Let's pick a big state. Let's pick a big state. Where's firearm death rates by no, yeah, I just want deaths. Give me the most amount of deaths. Okay, second most. So these, okay, actually this is perfect. This is perfect. Texas. 3,683 deaths compared to California's 2,945. But look at the rates per 100,000 people. Texas is almost double California's rate. Florida, same thing, almost double their rate, even though just shy of the same raw number. The way you find the similarities between rural, less populous states and urban, more populated states is by studying per capita numbers. That's how you find out what's actually, you're comparing apples to apples. And again, you are more safe in California than you are in Texas. If we go by, he is right. Massachusetts 3.4, New York 3.9, Jersey 4.1, Hawaii 4.4, Rhode Island 4.6, Connecticut 5.3, California 7.2. Not until you get into the the very permissive gun law states of Texas do you hit double digits. Illinois starts the double digits up here. Let's take a look. Double digits start at Wisconsin, Nebraska, Washington, New Hampshire, Illinois, Maine, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Michigan. We scroll down to the bottom and it's Mississippi, Wyoming, New Mexico, Alabama, Louisiana, Missouri, South Carolina, Arkansas, Montana, Oklahoma, Tennessee, West Virginia. Did any of those sound like big leftist states? I think New Mexico is kind of, but New Mexico, you could probably attribute a lot of the gun violence due to probably cartel violence, honestly. But otherwise, even so, of the top 10, Oklahoma, Montana, Arkansas, South Carolina, Missouri, Louisiana, Alabama, New Mexico, Wyoming, Mississippi, and Alaska. Are those red states or are those blue states? And why, if they're all red states, where they're more permissive of guns, are they more dangerous? By definition, they simply are.
The problem is that, domestic terrorists and even international terrorists come to states and to U.S. gun shows where there are no background check requirements, buy their weapons, and then bring them to states and countries where it's harder to get guns. So if we want to reduce injuries and deaths from guns, it's a simple thing to have background checks for all gun sales through your local police department.
How would you enforce it without a national registry? Unless you're saying here, we would need a national registry in order to enforce it effectively. Because otherwise you'd just be creating a law that is literally ineffective.
No, I mean, background check laws are very effective, and you have it all go through the FBI National Instant Check System, and they look at histories, criminal histories. You're prohibited from buying a gun if you have a felony. You're prohibited from buying a gun if you have a restraining order.
Okay, so let's say
that stuff is in the system. That is in the system. So law enforcement.
We already know who and who are not criminals.
And I have a firearm, right? Let's say I get arrested, and I have sorry, not a felon. Let's just say I'm a felon, and I have a firearm, and the cop walks up to me. He's like, "Hey, did you get a background check for that gun?" And I say, "Yeah, I did." How would he know? What system does a cop have to check it against to say, you know what, you didn't get a background check because this particular gun was sold to this person?
He does realize that a lot of cops, when you get pulled over, do background checks on you, right? He does know that when you get pulled over, they run your license and they run a background check on you, or at the very least, they can run a background check on you. All that we would then do is say, if you're a felon, you get pulled over, you have a firearm, a cop somehow finds this out, he would say, "Oh, cool. Do you have first of all, if you live in a permit state," he would say, "Do you have a permit for that?" Meaning, did you get a background check? And the verification is that you now have a permit. A, B, if it's not a permit state, then they go, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Well, I need you to leave that there. Don't touch that. I'm going to go back to the cruiser," and they're going to do a background check. And when it comes back, that when they run your name and you come back as ineligible to own a firearm, guess what? You get arrested. That firearm now goes back into the registry, and they go, where the fuck did you get this from? Well, it was originally bought by Joe Schmo in Tennessee. And somehow it's made its way to Kentucky. All right. Well, let's go. Let's track this back. Which shop did it go? Did it get shipped to originally for first retail sale? This shop. It then went to this person. We know that because they did a background check and it was registered to them for a while. And then they sold it to their friend, who they also had to file and get a background check and have it registered to them. And then maybe they got it stolen. Maybe they just let you, their friend, hold their gun for a while. Now they're liable. First of all, you are breaking the law for being in possession of a firearm, and they are now in trouble for the illegal distribution of firearms. There you go. Boom. Easy.
On this date, and it hasn't moved since. So that means that you either stole that gun or you didn't get a background check and they sold it to you. How would you enforce that without a national registry?
All right, so John, respond to that, and then we're going to take it into another quick break here.
Why do you need? You only really need a state registry.
Look,
a national registry is
there
better.
are
But
records. I mean, we are a country of people and laws. And if you don't like laws and you want to try to outgun police, go to Texas.
No.
But
Don't do that.
There is a way. There is clearly a way that law enforcement, because if you have a felony conviction, they know.
No, what I'm not going to let you do is paint
cops
the
will
picture that I'm
know.
sitting here on this podcast.
Cops will know if you've committed a felony and they pull you over, because they can check your tags, and if the tags are registered to you, then they can check your background. Maybe because this dude isn't a cop, and I come from a cop family, but this is a really easy one because I've seen my dad do it. When something happened, when somebody got pulled over, before he stepped out of the vehicle, looks up plates, looks up who it's registered to, gets out of the car, goes, collects their stuff, comes back, and if all of that stuff matches, then we're good. But if it doesn't, that means it's stolen. That means something fishy's going on. It would be the exact same process as firearms. If they pull you over, they run your tags, and it will say when your registration comes up and when your identification comes up, they will pull up your history, and they can see, have you committed a felon? Have you ever had the cops called on you? Have you been arrested for anything before? They can know that, all that information. You don't need a gun registry for. The gun registry is only so that we know who and where the guns are owned to. That's it. That's the only thing you need that for. In terms of the individual, we already have that information.
Saying that I want to go and shoot government officials with my firearms.
Yeah, as a former
well, you
child
do.
myself, I take an personal
Well, you do. Well, you do.
Don't do that.
Well, you do.
That's intellectually dishonest.
You've already said tyrannical government. That's government.
Right?
I never even said the word renegade. I said a possible tyrannical government.
Is that true? I'm pretty sure I heard. Let's find out. Did he say renegade? I mean, he's definitely said things like renegade. Control F. What are we at? 3120?
Trusted because they're could be a renegade government. That's just a false choice and a ridiculous argument when you're going up against a sophisticated military.
I find it ironic that you talk about how lethal it's intellectually dishonest and disingenuous. Don't do
You said a renegade government, right?
I never even said the word renegade.
Okay, cool. Okay. That's fair. He never said renegade.
Possible tyrannical government.
Possible tyrannical. Whoa, big fucking difference. Don't get me wrong, he didn't say it. I'll give him that. He did not say renegade, but let's be honest, he doesn't really need to. He just says tyrannical government.
Spelled out in our Constitution. It was designed to protect against possible tyrannical governments, foreign or domestic.
Specifically the British.
I never talked about going out on an offensive to shoot government officials.
So what do you do when the government becomes tyrannical in your view? Do you shoot military members, police? You've said this gun is for checking the tyrannical overreach of the government, which means it's there to shoot government officials, government representatives. So don't play this game like that's not what you're saying.
Over the government.
You said if they have military weapons, you need military weapons.
I do.
Wasn't that what the Constitution says?
That's exactly what it was intended for.
No, it's not what the Constitution says.
We'll be right back.
The Constitution is also a political text.
We'll be right back. This week we are debating, in fairly explosive form, I might add, the Second Amendment, gun rights, gun control, all of that juicy stuff. So, John, let's start with you. Here's my question.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to carry the free state, and people are keeping bear arms.
Debate makes a lot of sense.
I just love how it's like, let's never talk about the part where it's a well-regulated militia.
We can talk about kind of philosophy and first principles and all of that. The reality is that when the American Constitution was written over 200 years ago, they made a deliberate decision. And for better or for worse, again, holding aside kind of this abstract classroom philosophizing, for better or for worse, in the year 2021 in America, there are more weapons in circulation than human beings. So given that that choice
That will
was
always be
made
the case.
a long time ago, working with what we have, what exactly is the argument working within the confines of the Second Amendment? You call yourself a Second Amendment supporter. You're not supporting an Australia-style door-to-door gun buyback system, I understand. So what exactly is the argument then for not kind of arming people like Kalyan and I who carry our handguns concealed in movie theaters to protect ourselves from shooters? What exactly is the argument, given that there are more guns in circulation than human beings in this country, for further restricting law-abiding gun rights owners?
If you have inherently dangerous products like a firearm, there needs to be accountability and responsibility on the part of gun owners, gun dealers, gun manufacturers, and law enforcement to
Big
enforce
facts.
laws. I support the Second Amendment. I have a firearm. I live in a may versus shall issue state with concealed carry. There are some standards for concealed carry in Massachusetts that don't exist in other states. But I support the right to keep and bear arms. I just don't support it for people that can't pass a background check or who are terrorists. So their only way to know
unreasonable
if they're prohibited is to have a universal background check in every state, like you have a universal driver's license in every state. So I just think accountability and responsibility.
It's also not that
there are a lot
hard.
of guns around. We also
Getting a permit
know
and all
that
the
a
rest of
lot
it
of folks
isn't that hard.
that perpetrate crimes with guns, like the new, most powerful, high-powered weapons, at least we should know that they can pass a background check and don't have a history of violence before they buy and use a very powerful weapon.
Here's why I don't.
Yeah, keep in mind, like if you're when we talk about criminals, and especially when we talk about registration, because I do think a registration would be a good step to take. Is the end of the day, if manufacturers are already registering their weapons per each manufactured unit with the United States, if we can track any of these guns, which most guns, by the way, have serial numbers. That's also kind of the dumb part of we can't have a national registry. Most guns already have serial numbers. Most, if not all, from what I understand. So the idea that this would be difficult is incorrect. Already, manufacturers print serial numbers on the firearms that they sell to gun dealers. All that would have to happen is those would need to be reported, usually probably by batch, to the United States government, whether that be local, local, state, or national. But that's it. That's all that would happen. And when you get your firearm, you're given this proves that you own this with the serial number on it. If you ever want to even if you want to give it to somebody, all they have to do is pass a background check from an FFL, and the FFL needs to sign off on the transfer. That's it. And they're like, oh, that's so difficult. Like, no, it's not. It's not difficult at all. It doesn't harm you at all. You go to the fucking range in the store all the fucking time. Stop pretending like it's that difficult. You have to do this whenever you transfer firearms across state lines as it is. But, and it's always like, oh, well, criminals. Well, it would be nice if we could track the firearms that criminals use back to their original seller and back to, I don't even think manufacturer is really necessary. We need to know when these are going out of the legal process. That's the thing with registration, is with registration, you can know when it was manufactured, when it was shipped to the FFL, when the FFL sold it to somebody, and then what happened next. If they didn't do any of those processes, then you know who to go to. You know the address of the person who passed a background check to buy that gun illegally for the first time, and you can now find them and go, how did your gun get used in this gang shooting? And their answer might be, oh, it got stolen. And my answer might be this, whatever their answer is. At least then you can investigate that. That is a tool that police can use to investigate things. If your car gets stolen, They can figure out a way to, track that back to you. When they find it on the side of the road, on the other side of town, they can type in the license plate number. If the plate is off it, they can type the VIN number and find you, who that VIN number is tied to. It's the same thing with firearms.
I don't believe you when you say you support the Second Amendment, because you talk about this idea and this notion that we just want background checks so that we can keep people responsible and keep them out of the hands of criminals. But yet you are in favor of banning one of the most popular semi-automatic rifles owned by civilians in this country. I just don't, you can't say you don't want to ban guns, but then say you're okay with banning the most popular rifle in the country.
Deal with it. You don't need a rifle. How about that?
Intellectually inconsistent.
Well, I don't agree. I don't agree, because that's not a weapon that
also an AR-15 is not
an arms race. No, they're service weapons.
An AR-15, you don't need. That's not the only gun.
Not SWAT team for being like.
You can have other guns.
What's that?
Well,
I mean, your standard cop you see on the street in like Boston or New York City is obviously going to be carrying a 9mm or something like that. But I mean, like SWAT teams and like tons of like federal and local law enforcement carry rifles. Of course they do.
For SWAT.
Aren't there
major events?
Yeah, for
you think
SWAT.
That's not a major event to me?
When I go to a baseball game or a football game, I or any kind of high-profile sporting event, concert, anything like that, I more often than not see some people in uniform carrying rifles. But I don't want to disrupt what's going on here. Calling on.
Well, yeah, you also have control. You want to know why you're not worried about those guys carrying AR-15s? Why you're not worried when you walk into your baseball stadium that, oh, there's a cop with an AR-15. You want to know why you're not worried about that? Because they're a police officer. They've gone through training. There's a reason for them to have that. Whereas if we lived under this, a devil may cry bullshit of like, let anybody have whatever, let them open carry, it doesn't matter, we're all safe for the more guns there are around. You don't know who the fuck is who's ready to pop off and who isn't. You have no idea. If there are 10 guys with AR-15s, holding AR-15s, go ahead, ask your local police officer. You know what they're gonna say? I'd prefer none of them had AR-15s, because I can't tell who the threat is and who isn't the threat. And I have to figure that out fast enough to kill that person or disarm them or whatever before they use that on anybody else. Let alone if it's an AR-15, if it's fully automatic, how many people are going to catch stray bullets? It's just, they're unsafe. They're unsafe in civil society. They just are.
You mentioned something about the idea of treating the firearms the same way that we treat cars with respect to having national driver's license. Would you be okay with a national reciprocity where my license to carry a firearm would allow me to carry my firearm in every state that I go to?
No, I wouldn't.
They're the intellectual
because
with respect to this conversation. It's all nonsense. It really is.
Whoa. States' rights. I think states should be able to enact whatever laws that they want in terms of, if they want more strict, they can have more strict. But in terms of a baseline amount of restrictions or a base, like we need a baseline, right? Like that's the idea. A national registry, a national universal background check system would be for everybody. And then whatever state, they can have their own personal. If Texas wants to be like, that's the only thing you have to do to own a firearm, everything else is legal, fine, let it be Texas. Let people get gunned down in Texas. Then don't move to Texas then. I don't know what to tell you. But absolutely, like states should be able to decide, like, look, we don't want as much of this high-powered stuff in our state. Permissible, but we don't want as much of it. We want less. We want more. Each state can figure that out, but we need to find a baseline of what is appropriate.
You can't say in one breath you support the Second Amendment, but then tell me that I can't protect my life in New York the same way that I can in Texas. Is my life less?
No. If you need to comply with the laws of the state that you're in.
You don't believe in then treating firearms the same way we treat cars with respect to having a universal license.
Also, that's not true. Some states have different laws in terms of what cars you can own and the emissions that they put out.
In Texas, you have it's probably a 12, 15 per 100,000 firearm fatality rate. I happen to live in a state with a 3.5 firearm fatality rate. I would rather have the laws of Massachusetts apply to the whole country than to have virtually no gun laws like you have in Texas.
Now, do the same thing with vehicle fatalities. Compare one state that has a higher vehicle fatality death to another that has a lower one, and then you tell me that you're okay still with having.
And by the way, that changing the design of cars and having regulations on car manufacturers have reduced car death rates 10, 20 fold.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've solved this. We've gotten to the number that we're comfortable with. There's always going to be gun deaths, no matter what. Like, if you allow guns in your society, there's always going to be gun deaths. It's all about how you respond to where the cracks are and what occurrences like happens between those. Like, when we had cars, there was a time where car manufacturers were not required to put seatbelts in. And then we decided, hey, seatbelts are kind of a minimum no matter what state you're in. You need to have a seatbelt. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Like that's all we're looking for here.
Old. So the car, design, licensing, renewable licensing, safety training, all the things that are required for cars.
Those are also not universal. Each state has their own.
Deaths, well, by
from what I understand, each state has their own
dramatically increased gun-related injuries and deaths.
I'm a car guy of the highest order, and I love all of the safety standards that are in place that allow my car to be more safe. Now, with all due respect, please answer my question. Are you still okay with the idea of having a universal driver's license? Even though there's one state that has a higher vehicle fatality rate than another state, the same way that you just
absolutely yes. If every state were required to have a license for a firearm, and there was a background check before you got the license, and there was safety training before you got the license, and you were held accountable for storing.
Oh yeah, and anybody who's like, I don't want to do safety training, that's already a problem. That's already a red flag to me. You should absolutely be supporting safety training.
Your gun, if it's not in your direct control, yeah, I would like to see that nationally. And now, as we talk about where there may be common ground, I think we need uniform national laws, starting with a background check and a licensing requirement through your local law enforcement.
I just want to make sure I understood you clearly. So you do agree with having a universal license that would allow me to carry a firearm. Basically, my license in Texas would allow me to carry a firearm in any state that I go to.
If the standards were the same across the country, yes, I would.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, Kolian, I want to ask you a question. I saw you on Bill Maher, and you made a really important point that I think does not get brought up enough in this context, which was that it's very easy to live in a very safe neighborhood and to be calling for gun control. But
I'm so tired of this, and one of the things that I'm really tired of, and I'm gonna be a bit more a bit less charitable here. He only brings this up because he's black. Let's be really, really clear about that. The reason why this is a talking point that they bring up to him specifically, where it's like the black guy who's in favor of guns, he wants to remind us that it's dangerous in these black narratives. In black neighborhoods. First of all, plays beautifully into the right-wing narrative of dangerous black neighborhoods. Firstly. Secondly, when we talk about the ownership and the danger of some of the inner city neighborhoods that we have in this country, once again, a registration system and a background check system would necessarily increase the ability for the police to investigate these murders and find where and how these guns are getting in the hands of criminals, A. And B, it would not stop any of the people in those neighborhoods who are legal, who are law-abiding citizens from owning firearms. Your ability as a responsible gun owner to have to get a background check does not. It takes so little time. It's the most hardly an inconvenient thing I've had to do in my life. Whereas, if there are two people, one trying to buy a gun and another trying to buy a gun, but they're not allowed to, or they wouldn't be permitted to under normal circumstances, a background check will allow the person who's responsible and not allow the one that isn't. And the registration system would allow us to track the person who is trying to buy the gun illegally and then goes and buys the gun illegally from some fucking buddy's trunk It would allow us to track that back and find the roadmap of how that gun got in that person's hand. And somewhere along that roadmap, you're going to figure out, this is where all these guns seem to be going missing. This is our contact. Without a registration system, you don't know where these guns are coming from. You don't know who they're going through. You don't know whose hands they're passing along to.
It's a lot harder when you live in a neighborhood where there is a lot of violence to think, well, I don't need some way to protect myself. And I've heard you sort of bring this up in different contexts as well throughout this conversation.
If only Texas wasn't more dangerous than
the socioeconomic
Illinois.
Question here that may not be
like I find that really, really,
think about it.
Really,
I have
interesting.
A plethora of friends from different backgrounds and different aspects of life, and so where I currently live now in Dallas, for instance, it's generally safe for the most part. There are some, I live downtown, so there's that kind of weird spillover effect that tends to happen sometimes by surrounding communities. But in other places of the world and in this
of
country,
Texas,
you have people living in
Texas.
situations like where gun violence and violence in general and crime is a daily occurrence.
Texas.
And they have to make a living. So they still have to go out into the world and exist and subject themselves to possibly becoming victims of these things.
In Texas.
And the background checks and gun registration, none of that's going to stop these criminals from doing that. Mm-hmm. I'd even say it would.
I just hate how he asserts. He just says it like it won't stop it. Why won't it stop it? Oh, because they'll get a hold of him anyway. So what? Again, you're just saying that it won't stop it.
Be more dangerous if you banned all of the guns. Because now what you see.
Too bad nobody's arguing, especially in this conversation, for an all-out ban.
Because now there is no concern or fear from these criminals that the victims that they may encounter may have something that equalizes the two of them to protect them.
Wait a minute. If he is arguing that criminals right now are worried about regular ass citizens firing back at them, then why is there crime at all? If the laws in Texas where gun ownership is incredibly permissive, then why are the gun deaths so fucking high? Once again, we run into this problem where he will say, oh, the criminals, if you put a ban on guns, it would never hit criminals, which is true. They're unregistered. Absolutely. It's also why nobody calls for it. But you live in Texas, a state that is very pro-gun, and yet you have one of the highest gun death rates in the country. So why is that? Why is it that you have more guns and you are less safe, whereas this guy's in Massachusetts and has less guns and is more safe? They keep just saying it wouldn't work, even though we have examples where if you see a reduction of gun ownership, you will naturally see a reduction of gun deaths.
And so this idea and this notion that no one needs these things for protection in a country that is diverse from an economic, from a racial, and a living standard.
If only we could solve the problems of our economic,
I think it's kind of naive
of income inequality.
If not, I'm not going to be so nefarious. I'm not going to go so far as to say that it's
also I like that racial bit,
but I could
we
make
can't
that
get along
too.
because we're too diverse.
What are you saying to the people who live in these places that are dangerous? You're telling them, well, I live in a place that's safe, so either make more money and move to a place that's safe, or deal with the consequences of living in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah, again, it's too bad if you're a legal gun owner, if you're a responsible person, you can just get a background check and get a firearm. Under any of these rules, nothing would stop you getting a firearm. Nothing at all. It would all take place in the same 1 hour trip to the gun store it would have before the laws passed.
John, do you want to respond?
Sure. I mean, I'm not interested in banning guns.
Yes,
and
you are.
Everyone should have
banning AR-15s.
AR-15s aren't all guns.
That's a military-style weapon.
No, it's not.
Which
literally the
well, let me just finish. I let you finish.
What does the military
I
use?
agree with you that
in combat
there ought to be equal rights for gun ownership in this country. There just needs to be uniform rights. I mean, here in this country, we prohibit the National Consumer Product Safety Commission from regulating real guns, but they have to regulate toy guns and teddy bears. That's insane. So let's have uniform laws across the country so that everyone gets to play by the rules and not allow people who can't pass background checks to skirt the rules by not having a background check requirement. Now, if you want to get into the type of weapons, we can have those conversations, whether there's separate licenses for separate kinds of weapons. But right now, federal gun policy is to have unrestricted access to easily concealed handguns and
1 second. Let's read this really quickly. The big difference. Simply put, the difference between the two is an M4 has either a full auto or burst fire mode, while AR-15 does not. Also, minor differences such as barrel length and attachments fundamentally affect the rifle, but these do not fundamentally. Yeah. So yeah, like you can pretend that. Where's Can I get like a more modern? Yeah. Here we go. This seems. Yeah. Is this it? Oh no. That's pistol versus. That's a pistol versus a rifle. Not M16. What am I looking at? I just want something to demonstrate the difference of how not really all that different these two things are. Yeah, like this is an this is an AR-15. This is an AR-15. This is an M4. Now this is granted an old one, but like this is more of a modern picture. You see what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, these aren't that different. You can put most of the same stocks on. The only thing is, an AR-15 is the civilian, retail version, but there's virtually no difference otherwise. Like, people trick out their AR-15s to basically be their service M4 carbines. So, doesn't. And if the argument is like, oh, well, AR-15s can't go full auto, well, there's attachments that you can actually get to change that fact. So they're a piece of engineering. You can absolutely engineer something that's basically like something else to function like that other thing.
Military style weapons and large capacity ammunition.
Also, try and tell me that's not military. Like,
carry
please.
Without any knowledge whatsoever of anybody's background or intent or history in 32
This is
states.
irresponsible.
And that is why we have an epidemic of gun violence. I think if we had uniform gun laws, we would have less gun injuries and deaths, and we would not infringe on the Second Amendment as described by Scalia in the decision in 2008. I mean, I know Dick Heller. Dick Heller actually said to me in a debate situation, I actually think that maybe I'm partly responsible for what happened at Sandy Hook. I don't need an AR-15. I have one. He says, I don't need an AR-15.
AR-15s are cool, but
nor,
this is the cost you pay.
Do the general public.
Yes.
And it just makes it easier to kill a lot of people quickly without reloading.
For what?
It's not your
What's the
position
purpose?
to tell people how to defend the most important thing that they have, which is their lives. I'm sorry. Especially.
Wait. We already do that. You're not allowed to have grenades. You're not allowed to have rocket launchers. We already have decided that you're not allowed to do and own certain means to protect the most important thing in your life. Spare me. That's fucking stupid.
When your retort are laws that are literally.
So should you have a tank? Should you be able to buy a tank?
You can't own a tank in America.
Dude, your argument is that you can't tell me what I can and can't have, meaning a tank is absolutely permissible under that kind of ruling. Under the you shouldn't get to tell me what I can and cannot use to defend the most important thing in my life. Yes, a tank would fall under anything.
So you think the public should have tanks?
You can own tanks in America.
So that's okay to have tanks?
I don't have a problem with it.
Do you think it's a good
Okay,
idea
okay,
to
okay.
give
Well, at least he
anybody
cops
the
do it.
right
Yeah.
to have a tank and blow up cities?
We're in the closing. We're in the closing minutes here,
Yeah,
guys.
do you think
Let's not get
tanks?
too
Do you think
bogged
everyone
down
owning
in
a
the
tank would be?
discussion.
Think about that. He thinks it's okay to have a tank.
All right, all right,
to
all
have
right.
a
We
nuclear
got
weapon?
we have to bring this amazing
It's like tanks are
debate
cool,
to a
but
close, but we want to end
should
on
everyone
common
be able to have
ground.
a tank?
So
No.
I wonder if you could each take a
Also,
minute
who do you
and
think
of
would own a
something that
tank?
you are 100% sure
Probably
that
gangs,
the
right?
other guy agrees about. Let's start with you, John. What is something that you are totally sure that Colian agrees with you about, and that we can take that out of this debate?
I hope anyway, that he agrees that it would be smart and good public policy to require everyone to have a background check so you know they are not a felon when they are purchasing.
Okay, I'm
a
sorry, that doesn't count because he already said he doesn't support that. I want you to say something that you're
So
sure
he
he agrees
supports
with you
felons
about.
being able to buy guns
John,
undetected?
I want
No,
you
I
to
didn't say
think
that
of
either.
something that he agrees with you about. Can you
Honestly,
say
I can't think of one.
you
I
don't
really,
you
I-
can't
sadly,
you
I
can't
can't think of
commit to the position that Colian is against mass shootings. You can't commit to that. You can't say I am 100% sure that he doesn't want
Well, that's one of those like I'm morally against it, but I'm not willing to do anything about it.
people to die.
I am sure he doesn't want people to die.
Amazing. Thank you. Colian, tell us something that you're totally
is insane to me. Like I'm literally on here talking as an individual who wants to protect the right in order so that people can defend their lives. I don't want guns so that people can just go kill people randomly. I think that's insane. But I will say this, the one thing I will agree with you on is we do need to do what we need to do as far as finding out ways to solve the issue with respect to violence in this country.
Ugh, it's non-specific. It's like we need to solve violence. Oh yeah, you're right. Because we as America are just going to solve violence, right? Wasteful.
I don't want people dying. I don't want people being killed in mass shootings. I don't want kids in the inner cities that look just like me.
You don't
shooting
really
each
seem
other
to
up.
like any
I
of
don't
the
want
things
any
that would
of
lead
that.
to
I also
a reduction
don't
in
want
those things.
People who, as a result of knee-jerk reactions with respect to policy, being stripped of their ability to protect themselves from said criminals.
It's always about criminality. It's the only time that they can argue from is like a you live in a war zone. Yeah, no, I'm not. We're not doing this. It's fucking stupid. While most of that debate was at least a bit substantive, as I kind of expected, Colian Noir completely disingenuous. I just don't appreciate this constant reframe of fucking criminality, of gun, all of this. It's always trying to argue from the most extreme and the most like, well, what if the government tries to take us over? Well, that's not going to happen. If that happens, you're getting drone struck, so that doesn't work out. Oh, well, we need it against criminals. Oh, okay, well, if that's what you want, what if we registered all the firearms so that we could catch the criminals and the people selling them firearms? And, we did background checks, so it'd be difficult for some of those criminals to get a hold of firearms. And then they go, nah, man, I don't really like those ones either. And it's like, all right, then you don't want any of the actual solutions. And it's why guys like this are like, what if we just gave everyone body armor? You hit 18, we give you some body armor, we give you like some armor plates. And it just becomes, let's do everything else except for address the fundamental issue of lax gun laws in the United States. They're just incapable of it. Every solution that would actually give us the results that we are looking for, they're not interested in. And there's a reason why he's not interested in it. And it's because he's sponsored by the NRA, who are funded by gun manufacturers who love mass shootings, because every time there's a mass shooting, especially if it gets national attention, you know what happens? Some random Karen finally decides, fine, I'll go into a gun store, I'll buy myself like a Glock 17. I think, well, probably more like, they'll probably buy themselves like a 23 maybe, whatever the micro ones are. Buy themselves a Glock, and they'll feel just a little bit better. Will they actually be safe? Maybe not. But guess who made money? The gun manufacturers. They still made money on that sale, regardless of whether that woman is actually ever capable or able to fire it effectively, to stop an assailant in any way. gun manufacturers aren't interested in it. As long as they made that initial sale, that's all that matters. So, if you're ever wondering why the debate never goes past government tyranny and a national universal ban that nobody asks for, and what about criminals? That's why. That's why, because there is a monetary motivation to never stem the sales of guns. It's the one thing that can never happen. All the sales of guns must be intact. But I don't know what to tell you. Okay, either way, that's it for me today. That was disappointing to say the least. I was hoping it would be a little bit more substantive. In the beginning it was, I think, but as per usual, kind of just evolved in the same shit, in the same talking points. But either way, that's gonna be it for me. Thursday, probably gonna do a midday show. Won't be a 7 o'clock show, most likely. Other than that, we're probably gonna have a normal show. I know this started out with me just kind of scrolling through Twitter and watching stuff and kind of just getting irritated. But Thursday we're gonna have a nice, solidly structured normal show. So if you enjoyed any of what you saw, if you got some catharsis from any of it, if you learned anything, if you heard some arguments that maybe you could use in the future, or whatever, if you just like lurking in chat, I would be very grateful if you went down and on Twitch, you hit that follow button. Really helps out the channel. And if you're on YouTube, do the same with the subscribe button. Other than that, you all have a lovely night, and I'll see you all Thursday. Bye-bye.